By Executive Order N2920 issued on March 18th, 2020, NMUSD board meetings will be closed to the public. This is a special meeting beginning at 8:30. We will have opening ceremonies, a moment of reflection, and pledge to the flag led by Trustee Crane. Please rise.
Place your hand over your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Jelsey,
Here.
Trustee Barto.
Here.
Trustee Metoyer.
Here.
Trustee Anderson. Here. Trustee Crane.
Here.
Trustee Ursulou.
Here.
Trustee Wiegand.
Here.
Adoption of the agenda,
So moved.
Second.
moved by Trustee Metoyer, seconded by Trustee Crane. Roll call vote.
Trustee Jelsey,
Yes.
Trustee Barto.
Yes.
Trustee Metoyer.
Yes.
Trustee Anderson.
Yes.
Trustee Crane.
Yes.
Trustee Ursulou.
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand.
Yes.
Item 6, community input on special agenda items only. We have no comment cards, so Trustee Metoyer, no reason to
I get a
read.
morning off.
You get the morning off. Item 7, discussion action. 7A, superintendent search process. We have leadership associates here today to discuss the following: overview of the search process, board search firm protocols during the search, discussion of online survey, board recommendations regarding community and staff groups to participate in input sessions with leadership associates, timeline for the search, board input regarding desired qualities and characteristics of a new superintendent. That's a lot, and I will turn it over to leadership associates. Are Peggy, Dennis? Okay, Peggy and Dennis.
Trustee Jelsey,
Yes.
President Jelsey, could Dr. Smith bring it forward? Could he bring his table closer? I mean, it's still within 6.
Well, I think, are you going to be up at the podium, or did you?
All I need is a microphone when I'm here, but if I move the table up, I could probably, can we try that?
I just didn't know if you have to use that mic, you definitely have to stand at the podium. I don't think it'll.
I think
Yeah,
we-
we could.
If you can try, if,
Move it down.
Yeah.
I mean, we are the only ones in the room,
Yeah, I
so.
think that'll work.
There you go.
Could that work?
Yeah.
Nice how flexible everyone is.
Bob, would you just let us know if it's not, if he's not being picked up?
Okay, testing this mic.
Yes, it's good.
Oh, awesome. Good.
Thank you.
Okay, are we ready to?
We are ready.
President Jelsey, good. Well, thank you. It's awfully nice to be back here again so soon. And we had I thought, a very enjoyable and productive session last week. And now we're gonna, kind of get down to work with all the aspects of the search and kind of lay it out from beginning to end. And Rosie was kind enough to provide all the backup that I think we're gonna need in front of you. So as we start with the open session agenda, we'll just kind of go through each of those points, and I think everyone has their calendar too, so we'll be booking all the dates as we move along. So the first is, the search process and a discussion of that. I thought we did that fairly thoroughly the last time. Is there any questions regarding that? We just went through the search process. We'll go deeper into it as we go along. And then the next one would just be, in a search like this, we'll work with you in terms of your communication, how you'd like that to happen. Normally, the board will designate one individual, and traditionally the board president, just if there's a question or clarification that we need on something. And then when we send out communications, and we send it out pretty regularly about where we are with the search, we can either send it to the board president, and then the board president can send it out, or we send it out to everyone at one time. And so this is sort of the discussion on how you wish us to communicate with you.
Well, if I had my druthers, if I had my druthers, I'd love to have it be sent to everyone at one time, but definitely to have President Jelsey be the responder for all of us. But it'll save her the time of letting us know. Unless, I have not been through this process. I trust Mrs. Jelsey, you're the only one on our board that has been through this formalized process. If that really does muck up the works, please let me know.
No.
I just have FOMO personally, so.
I mean,
No.
yeah, I would like to get to receive the documents, but I agree with just having one
Mhm.
spokesperson for the group.
Is everybody good with that?
I think a two trustee, President Yelsey, and then CC the board.
That works.
Yeah. That's good. You're all caught up to speed on it. And then sometimes there is a piece where something just needs to be clarified. And so then you have the liaison and then we'll work with President Jelsey on that. So that's traditionally the way it's done, and all the board members are in the loop continuously. And we keep you apprised pretty regularly. We also do a blind copy, if you will, to the board. And that is just to prevent any reply alls. Sometimes that happens, right? And so it's done in a way that you can reply back to us, but you don't reply to each other. And I know you know that, but it happens through the search. So we're really careful about the Brown Act piece in terms of communication with each other on that. And so we'll kind of make sure that we don't get you into any trouble in that regard. So that's how that's done. And then the contact information, we received that from Rosie. So we have your emails, and we also have your cells if we need to send a text. And you should have that from us. And if you don't, we'll get that to you. Okay. All right.
So Dennis, I'm trying to connect to the internet. Stop letting me. Is that
C4.
C4,
C4.
C4, 34, CA or EA? Get redirected.
EA35.
Oh, wait a minute, I'm linked.
Okay, there we go.
Finally linked.
All right. Sorry about that, everyone. The next is the use of input. And so part of this process, and we talked about that, how important it is to get out and reach all the stakeholders who possibly can be reached. And that's many indeed. I know President Anderson, you were already at a DLAC meeting. And so we're going to talk to you today about all the groups that you'd like for us to meet with. And in your packet, there's a listing of community sessions, examples. And I'd like to go through those. And then what we do is we make, through Rosie, we make contact, something like, dear community member, principals, we're embarked on a superintendent search, and the board would very much be interested in your input. And would you be able to participate in an input session on this date? And so it's an invitation that comes from the board, if you will, to participate. And then, as you know, the online survey after today and your approval, it'll immediately go up on the website, and so people can begin. And so an email blast, we'll want to send that out to everyone. So we can just start with the groups, and these groups are what would be individual meetings, individual or small groups, up to what Peggy, 8 to 10 people, generally max via Zoom, but we'll do multiples, like for principals and different groups or teacher groups. So today we're gonna do the Board of Education in terms of the official input. And so as we go down that list, maybe just look at the list and then tell us, however you want to do it, President Jelsey. We'll just see if there's a group that doesn't belong there, if the name's incorrect, or a group that should be on there. So we'll just let you have a moments to look at that and then give us input.
I'm sorry.
President Jelsey, how would you like us to
respond to this?
raise our hands? or-
I think, yes, would you like to start?
I just want to make sure everybody's finished reading, because I've had that where I haven't, and I get very frustrated because I can't listen twice, but yes.
And everyone has had an opportunity to look at these, so.
And my computer just.
I would like a definition of what, great with 1, 2, 3, down to number 4. What is your definition of our leadership team?
Well, that's a very good question. The cabinet would be the cabinet. And the leadership team, we need to hear from you. The leadership team, sometimes there are be all the people who are not principals, who are managers or certificate or classified cabinet members.
So at the district, you're talking
At the
about at the district.
Yeah.
At the like director level?
That's what I was thinking.
Directors, coordinators, right.
Okay.
One request that I had from the teachers, and I assume this is the case, but just wanted to confirm, is they wanted to make sure that they would be able to have, that, for example, teachers would be able to have a meeting with just teachers in the room, principals wanted to have a meeting with just principals in the room, so everyone would be at the same group or level without kind of mixing between
Yeah.
groups. They felt that that was two different groups reached out to me and asked, they said that they felt that was important.
Yeah. And that's a really good point because people have to feel very comfortable. And so we will do that. Teachers, and we even separate out, Teachers Association, the AFT, that the executive board, and then teachers in general, who just want to participate.
Yes.
But we won't mix different groups of people together just because they're more comfortable if they're, all teachers or principals are classified, et cetera. We also want, in principals, we'll have to decide what you want to do because we have to break it up, whether we take all high school people together, high school, middle school, and then elementary, and that sort of thing. So I don't know if you have a thought or opinion on that, because we'll have to have a couple groups with site leaders.
Yeah, ours
If
are
we're
very,
going down the line on the, like 1 through, if you're on the principals, I would prefer to have them secondary, separate from elementary.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that works.
Okay,
And when you get to elementary, because you don't want 22,
right.
I would say, oh gosh, I hate saying separate them by zones, but it's the easiest way, even though our principals may be moving. But either that or alphabetical. I mean, what do you think?
the
people?
zones, I think the zones tend to talk to each other a lot, though.
I do too.
Yeah.
They have a good relationship. So for us, it's by zone
Uh-huh.
and they get it.
And we have 4 zones.
Okay, all right, that's good. And sometimes if a person has a schedule is they can't make one, they could
They can-
always go
Right.
into another.
Oh,
And-
that's nice to let them know that.
So they can do that. So, and we're taking notes, and then Rosie, you're taking notes too, right? So we make sure we get this. So I think it is good, President Yelsey, we just kind of work down this line. So principals, we understand that. Classified district office staff, we would generally have the district office classified come together or in multiple groups. And then there's also a classified in general.
And how do you select classified in general? Do you put out an all call? Who would like to respond? And, oh, cool.
We'll set up the schedule and say, we have a time set at this for classified. And then if we get too many, then we set up a separate second one. And so it's their call.
We also have one other classified, and I was putting it down at the bottom. Our superintendent has 4 advisory.
Oh, I have that too.
And one of them is superintendent's classified advisory. And I think there's about 45 people who have met with him on a monthly basis.
Yes.
But he also has like a classified or certificated, a
Yeah.
parent advisory, and a student advisory.
Oh,
And it would be nice to have each of those groups.
Yep, I have that down
yeah.
just further on my list. But
Well, I
yes,
was including it with classified. I was just
Perfect.
talking about.
perfect.
and I think I would add to that to make sure to, as well as those cast the net wide, because I know for like the parent group, that's a very select, small
Mhm.
group, and it's often a little bit insular. So we just want to make sure, particularly for classified, there's certain people that often have a voice. So I think to expand it, it's really valuable.
So would it be acceptable, we would do the advisory group separately, but we still
Yes.
have the opportunity, and we would do it to
Right.
everybody.
Yes.
That way, and some people loop over, and we would
Yeah.
advise them not to do that, just choose one versus the other.
Perfect.
But it works well like
Mhm.
that.
Yes, and there's
And in
one,
that case, yeah,
Oh.
go ahead.
oh, go ahead. There's one other, if we're talking about staff, there's one other particular group I would like to request, the community facilitators, because they have a very particular lens into our highest need kids in the district. And I think them being their own separate group, there's enough of them that would be valid.
I think think I missed, thank you. And I think I missed one of the advisory groups, classified parent, teacher,
And student,
and student. Yeah.
Anyway, we can get the student done
pardon?
really soon. I mean,
Yeah.
because a lot of them are seniors. A lot of that group are seniors, aren't they? Or are they juniors? I'm not on
No,
it.
they're all seniors.
They're all seniors. So
Oh, sorry.
No, no,
but
well,
student
no,
board
they're both the
members.
student advisories.
the
are-
student
are both.
advisors,
No, it's sophomore even, because Luca's a sophomore.
Yeah, no, they're.
not our, yeah.
The
Superintendent Student Advisory Group.
Got it.
Is.
Sophomore
is,
to
uh,
senior.
Yeah,
Got it. I was thinking student board members. They're all seniors.
well, they're seniors too, because our student board members are also on that.
I would include, yeah, the student board members in that group, so they
Yeah.
don't have to come separate.
I do have a point of clarification. The nurses and health services, would they be included in the classified? Because they've been through they're a pretty, bless you, trustee Metoyer. Is that getting too deep into the weeds?
Well, that's what I was thinking. Okay,
Were
so
you
then
talking
should we
about-
have librarians and should we
Right,
have
okay.
music teachers? I don't
That's
know.
fine.
Yeah, I think if we do the classified and certificated,
Okay.
then they join in and it's actually
That's
nice
fine.
sometimes to have a little cross-section
Mhm.
of people. I mean, still within the classified body or teacher body, but they come with a little bit different perspective and sometimes it'll enrich the conversation.
Okay.
That's why I was wondering about the.
We'll keep moving down the list then. The classified district office staff,
Yes,
that's clear. Then the confidentials and their people, you know, that there's only a handful of those individuals, but they have a very unique perspective.
What are the?
Rosie.
Good
Rosie,
question.
Vicky
finance
Gilmore.
Secretary, business office, they're called confidentials because they deal with confidential information. So they're actually outside of the class, they're classified, but they're outside the classified classification. And you only have about probably 4 or 5 of those individuals in the district.
That includes like the HR.
Generally, it's the HR,
Superintendent.
superintendent, CBO, Rosie, and there may be, maybe even ed services, but they'll know who they are. You know, I mean, you'll know, we'll get that, but it's just a few of those individuals. Then there's the all call for classified and certificated. Teachers Association, this is the AFT.
No.
NMFT.
NMFT.
Eh,
Newport Mesa.
NMFT.
And, yeah. That's the executive board.
Whoever they are.
And then the same with the classified. So as we get to number 12,
Well, that was what we were
have we
talking.
already
That could,
included? that's
what we were talking about. This, we have student board members. Those board members are also on the superintendent student advisory board. So you could do all of those at one time.
Together then.
If I might add one more, we have a very vocal and involved NMFT retired group. I believe trustee Matoye is in that group as well. But I think they would love to have insight into this process.
But is it appropriate? They are retired. They're an auxiliary group.
We have business partners down here, of which I think
That's
there's
just
a lot of
community
auxiliary.
members.
Right. I know that there are a lot of strong opinions, which is why this is an issue. And I think for me, it makes a lot of sense to include them.
But they could also be part of community input as well, because they are community now.
That's true.
I mean,
I think, if we have business partners on here, to me, NMFT retired is an important group to include. They really have a lot of perspective.
If, regardless of their perspective, regardless of their opinions, because they are a very strongly opinionated group of old people like me. And if we're going to project the total transparency, the board wants to be inclusive, asking people to come to a group, it isn't going to hurt to have another 20-minute session with another group of people. If it says our board values input from every possible, that we can then truly say at the end, we asked everybody, you should have spoke up then before you asked us to hire someone with pink hair.
Well, and theoretically and potentially, I mean, it's not at all likely, but whoever we have as the superintendent could have an impact on their benefits and their retirement. Again, not likely, not, anything in the future, but it's something that could impact them down the line. I think it's good to have them.
And
And some of these also, like the issue that trustee Anderson wrote, some of these issues are outreach to who's going to be invited to what group versus like having their own separate group. Like if we commit to, okay, when we do the community session, we're going to reach out to the Chamber of Commerce, we're going to reach out to the retired teachers, and we're going to reach out to A, B, and C. I mean, it's all in the implementation of what we do. So to me,
Yeah, and I
having-
think that's an important point to just let people know we have these sessions, and there are some of them that almost anybody could.
I just don't
reach
want to
into.
totally bog you guys down with
Mhm.
when we start getting
Yeah.
75 different groups. I think, I hate
to-
looking at the plastic.
I hear your point, but I mean, honestly, the Kiwanis and Rotary are, this is the page says community sessions.
Mhm.
There's Kiwanis on here, of which we don't really have a strong group.
Right.
There's business partners. For me, it makes sense in
Mhm.
lieu of a Rotary or Kiwanis to have
Oh,
an NMFT
I-
retired because
I
they're
would
very
absolutely,
involved.
yes. And I had them down in that service club representatives group. That's where I had them as in my notes of adding people.
Ah.
With like Lions Club and Costa Mesa United.
Yeah, and if I could add to that point, like in my mind, like when we said, like one of these groups will be on a Tuesday, it'll be for the community. And to me, that would include number 15 plus number 18 plus number 23, all in one
Right.
group. They
Yes,
don't need their
yeah.
own little meeting.
One day, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it could also be even the city council and city
Yeah.
staff. I mean,
exactly.
in
Just a
reality,
group
I'm
is-
not sure how many of them are going to
Mhm.
come to a session, but they should be included on the invite.
Yeah.
If I might ask a clarifying question. So is the reason that you do have these broken down though, is to hear authentic voices from different groups? So if it gets too large, some of the more specific concerns, like we have a very involved youth sports group. We have 3 or 4 different groups that are included in that. So they have very specific needs. So if they're the general community group, their voices will get diluted. So I like that they
That's what
are
it
broken
goes to.
apart, and then there are also opportunities for greater focus.
Yeah.
That to me seems to be the intention with the list of over 20.
I think that's well stated. The benefit for you is that you'll get we take notes the whole time. And we don't put their names on it, but you'll see the group. It'll be, the retired teachers, the classified board. And you'll see, wow, that's interesting. This group responded sort of this way. This group had a little different slant on it. So it's good to have enough big chunks that you're seeing there's a difference of opinion a little bit or a different viewpoint from a group. So if you want to put the retired administrators, that's fine. You'll still know this came from the retired administrators, and it's just, okay, check that in your mind.
Mhm.
The things with the community groups, they can be grouped together, the Kiwanis, the service, the chamber, and not many of them actually
Yeah.
come to it.
Right.
And so then you'll see business partners in general, and that includes a much broader group of people. Then the community, it's sort of anybody there. So I think you're moving in the right direction to go through this list. If there's someone that you really want to hear that voice from specifically,
Oh, shoot.
No, I'm glad it's you. Just because we all take turns having our phones go off. That's
so
we
is
all
that
reach for our
answer,
phones.
are you comfortable with?
And then, oh, did you have? I think that's a great point, but then getting at trustee Anderson's point about sports groups, for instance, sports is a very particular element, especially in Costa Mesa. I don't know how it is in Newport, but very particular. But then there's a whole nother group, that's the arts group. So then it's like, if we start to do one for sports, is the arts people going to, so where is that line? Because I mean, I'm a consultant in my real life, and from your vantage point, do you want to do 30 of these groups or do you want to do 20? Like, where are we trying to head so that we don't overwhelm you with
I think
all
that,
these?
I think a really special interest, like, we would not say, bring the sports, bring the arts, because you're really hiring a superintendent. You're not hiring a superintendent of arts or a superintendent of sports. And so we'd say, no, you're a parent, and we want to hear your input, and you can talk with other parents too. And so that's a very, very good point. And so we don't want to get that finely tuned down. But there isn't probably.
Yeah, the only thing would be is if you have a district-wide, let's just take it, sometimes happens, there's a district-wide sports leadership group.
Yep.
I don't know what that's the name of it, but there might be a district-wide panel that's focused on sports, then you might have them as a group. But if it's all separate schools, they can do it through their school, right? So I don't think it's the same, but sometimes there's an arts council in a school district.
We have a Newport
So
Mesa Arts
that
Commission.
might be a group that you want to include. It just depends, and every district's a little different on that. And ultimately, what we're doing is trying to come up with the common themes that all the groups are saying are really critical for the new superintendent. That's what you're really looking for. What are the common themes that come out of those groups?
Yeah.
Some groups can have some of their own special interest, but they all want somebody who is X.
Uh-huh.
And I think the difference could be which are made up of staff. So like our arts group are mostly staff.
No, they're
So-
not.
The Vapor
I'm
Group,
sorry.
yeah.
The Newport Mesa Arts Commission is pretty much equally grouped with community members, community partners. Most of our staff is there too. A lot of our staff is there, but it's balanced. It's not just our people, because we have to give, every time we have a meeting, we have to get subs for them. So we have our arts partners in the district. We have the
But it's district, our district leads it and our staff lead it. Whereas with our sports councils, of which we do have district-wide, our staff is not leading it.
okay, but our
To me, that's
sports
the
council,
difference.
our sports council is not district-wide. Our sports council is Costa Mesa.
There's no
There
sports
is no
council in
not one for
Newport.
Newport Beach.
Mm.
I think both of those groups should be included because they are a very strong
That's
voice.
fine. I'm not going to argue the nuance with you, Shar.
I just have a procedural question. Are these going to be, is the outreach going to be through Zoom or in person?
This will be Zoom.
Because that makes a difference too. It can be as far and wide as you want it to
Yep.
be.
Yeah, and that's right.
And it's
So we have to be-
productive, it's efficient. So
we have-
let's go back to that, I
We
think.
have to be a little careful because Zoom, we have to do not more than 10 or 12 at the tops. And we have to remember, and I know with Trustee Anderson, I sent you a note, we're asking the following. And so if we don't need to get these groups down so finely tuned at this point in time. We ask the following: what are the personal characteristics and professional characteristics or qualities that are important in the superintendent? Okay, so it's sort of a broad, okay, we want a leader who has a doctorate, has superintendent experience, or has integrity. Then what are the challenges facing the district? What do you think are the challenges now and going forward? And so, and what are the strengths of the district? And so that's what we're asking. And so I think having a little broader groups, but within some context makes sense. But to get it down so finely tuned, it doesn't provide that much benefit at the end of the day. Everyone's going to have a chance. They're going to be able to pick their group that they feel comfortable in. And so I think a little bit larger group dynamics in terms of is probably better. And remember, every single person is also going to be able to complete a survey. Every single person, and they can identify who they are in terms of the classification. A high school parent, an elementary parent, a teacher, a student.
I have another question, if that's possible. Following up on President Yelsey's point about doing the principals separate by high school and elementary, can we make sure that there are various options for the parents and that the parents are segregated by elementary and high school so that it's not just open to all parents? Like, so you do one specific for elementary, one or two or three for the parents, so that we really can have discussion. You can have discussions that are clearly demarcating what elementary parents are looking for versus what high school parents are looking for. Because you're going to get different things. You're going to get with the high school parents, you get people who have been through this entire system for over a decade, and they have very different perspectives than the newer parents who are just beginning kindergarten and what they envision. And then that brings me to another point about what is going to be asked of them. The characteristics that they're looking for in a superintendent, what the district does well, and the challenges facing the district. I'm wondering if there's any way to incorporate something about vision. You know, what is your dream for the district? What is your vision for the district? Get people to be more forward thinking about what they're even looking for, so that then we can know what people are looking for when we make our decisions here about moving forward with a new person.
Well, yeah, I'm just trying to think of my experience with parents. It hasn't been particularly necessary to separate them out. In fact, and sometimes it's good for the elementary to hear what the secondary folks are saying. So I'm not sure. It kind of go both ways on it. I think there's benefit, but there's also not a need in some ways for it.
And I think I trust you to filter out the relevant like pieces that we need, but just speaking personally, I've learned a lot about the needs of kindergartners from having a secondary. Like I wish stuff that I wish that I knew to ask for then I've learned now. So I think we'll get both of those. And I'm sure you guys know how to ask those kinds of questions that you can get. You know, we want kindergartners want parents of kindergartners want options and high quality classes and technology and access and all those things. I'm sure you'll hear that. And then I'm sure you'll hear from the high school parents, you know, this was not our experience. And you can put those together is what I'm hoping will happen.
And my concern with keeping the elementary and secondary together is that you get a lot of group think, you know, where you've got the experienced parents in secondary that have been through, they tend to be more vocal in my experience. They have a lot more history with the district. And then the elementary parents are more visionary, you know, not visionaries, but you know, they're looking to the future and what they want. And I'm just concerned about group think where they're like, well, I haven't had that experience, but they do, and I trust them and blah, 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 blah. And then you get those kinds of experiences. And, you know, something that maybe happened 8 years ago is not necessarily relevant for now because everything is so different. So that's just why I'd like to see it.
Yeah, we'll
I think we just have to think about numbers. How do you?
Yeah.
When you do parent groups, what's the maximum number you would want to have in that group?
Well, if it's Zoom,
Yeah.
that's, you know, you can't go 50,
Yeah.
right?
We can, I mean, for, you know, now for selected parent groups, and we could do, I don't know if the protocols allow us to do an in-person large group meeting.
We'll wait
For
2
selected,
weeks. In 2 weeks, we might
not
be
yet,
able to.
yeah.
I mean,
June 15th, we may know something different.
But you know, with Zoom, you can also have breakout rooms, which
Yeah.
makes it way more
Right.
personal. So you
Oh,
could
yeah.
actually have 50 and then break out into 5. I just don't know the capacity of your
We have to have
management
the
staff.
facilitators. So
Right.
what we generally, now, remember that everyone's getting online survey. And the survey says, I'm an elementary, middle school, or high school parent. And so they're going to have direct feedback and they have opportunities to do, well, you'll look at the survey, very complete, and opportunities to write comments. So everybody's going to get outreach in that way. What we've traditionally done, because it's hard with 18,000 students and how many parents you have, to say, okay, all the elementary parents, because we get flooded. What we've traditionally done is do targeted leadership, parent leadership at schools. And then we have opened up other opportunities for anybody to participate. And that's what these groups
Yeah.
generally do. So we really look, who are the leaders? We can pull all the elementary school leaders together, however you decide that to be in the middle school and the high school. Then we do the all call for any parent. And then everyone also gets the survey. So we handle it in ways. But if every parent thinks that we can do a small group with them, that's not really very feasible for us. But we can do the leadership and we can do the online survey pieces of it. And then we can do the community, anybody who wants to participate.
And I think to that, thank you for clarifying that. I think from my vantage point, my concern, similar to Trustee Wygand's, is the power dynamics of parents in a room. So for me, I would much rather see one parent leadership group that includes the Harbor Council PTA and that Superintendent's Council, because those are already the vocal
too big.
crew. There's not that many of them. No, that would be one ideal Zoom of those folks. Many of them are the same person.
Yeah, a
From
lot of
our
them are the
Zoom.
same people.
It's a very
To-
insular,
When we work with Rosie,
yeah.
if it overflows, and we just set up a
Yeah.
separate time. So
because that's a very insular vocal group. And so I would just want to make sure that we have opportunities for the newer parents that have not been in the system a very long time, that are still making those decisions. Do I even want to stay in this public school district? We want to hear explicitly from them what they're looking for, because it is different from those older parents. The high school parents I talk to, I have fundamentally different conversations than the elementary ones that are just entering our district. And I don't know if that's unique to here or if that's the norm, but it's very different. And to Trustee Wygand's point, the power dynamic of having them in the same Zoom room is going to be impactful. And I want to just make sure that we segregate those out and get clear data from what they each want.
we can do that. And so I think we're taking good notes, and there's a good understanding. We'll sit down with Rosie afterwards, and we'll kind of get this laid out in a way, and you'll see it before a decision is made. Say, these are the groups that we've identified based on today's conversation. And then, if there's input that we need to change something, then we'll do that. But I think we understand the issues regarding trying to separate out parents at different levels, however we can do that so that there's a free flow of conversation, and we're hearing more distinctly the way elementary parents or community members feel versus the high school or middle school.
Thank you.
And when it comes to the parent leadership, please, because our typical thinking would be the parent superintendent's advisory group and Harbor Council PTA. We have two
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
PFOs. I want to almost insist that those two PFO presidents are included
Mhm.
in the Harbor Council PTA. And in all fairness, there's that feeling of, well, they're not part of PTA, so that's too bad. And
No, no, no.
they have to be included in that also.
They just tend to get left off the distribution list because,
Mhm.
Yeah.
people
And-
think PTA.
Who's got Kaiser? Whose school is it's Kaiser Woodland is one PTA,
They're
right?
fantastic.
Okay. Yeah, PFO.
And
Yes.
we
you.
also, we have the foundations at schools,
me?
foundations,
Yeah, that's down the line.
foundations, booster clubs.
So
So
I
if-
think the foundations are where I see a lot of the kindergarten, elementary parents. They're not in the PTAs. A lot of them are.
yeah, and they're different groups at every
Yes.
school, the
Uh-huh.
people who are involved in those.
Well, we also just want to make sure that one of the challenges our district is facing is low enrollment. And we want to make sure that these parents coming up through the system have a
Right.
vocal opinion, because that could affect our district going forward. So that, we want to make sure that the challenges we're facing are we're getting the opinions from those people that could affect
That's
our
good.
challenge.
And when they do get to educational foundations, the Newport-Mesa Schools Foundation should be included in that. don't you?
They're in
I think
there.
that should.
Number
Is that in
21.
your notes?
It's already on here.
Yep.
Well, it's already on the
All right.
list.
So as we move down, is 13,
Oh, we're at 13.
is that relevant? Or have we?
We do have school sites
Yes.
councils,
Yeah, but
which
if this is all-
which could be a different group than,
But President Yelsey, this is happening during the summer. So we're not,
but it's on Zoom. And I mean, if they can come, they can come. We don't say you have to be there.
but there isn't one. It dissolves in June and it starts up again in September, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm just asking. It's been a while since I've been in high
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It does. But what I'm wondering, and maybe Trustee Ursula could, they're also just parents. Could they be combined into something else?
Oh, I'm
Because it
so
just
sorry.
seems like-
I read it wrong.
Yeah.
Totally. I
Like if
had
we-
the
Just
kids.
trying to.
Got it.
Yeah. If there's
Scratch my
like
thinking.
a
Those are
parent
parents.
leadership, if there's a parent leadership
Yeah.
cohort, so then it would be school site,
Mhm.
the school site council reps, Harbor Council PTA, superintendent's parent advisory,
Mhm.
those three
PFO
groups.
presidents.
It's really not it's also summer. The attendance is not going to be 100%. I mean, I think those are site-based leaders that to me, it makes sense to
I think
combine.
I think it makes sense. As I said,
Yes.
If we get too large a group, we just split them up. It's the same group, the same grade, family. We may have two different sessions with them.
Are just in your estimation, are you expecting more people to respond to the online survey than be part of these
It's
groups?
the invitation is very powerful. This is powerful because it's coming out and people do tend to attend. So that's really good. So you really target that. The online survey, it will be very strongly, I think, attended to also. People will participate in that. And it's a different kind of response that you get. And sometimes it's doubled over. So both are really important. This, people are honored to be asked. And it's like a one-on-one conversation. But so many people want to stay home and just complete this, students, parents, teachers, and committee members, the online survey. So I think you'll get a really nice combination of both, probably a few
I-
thousand surveys.
I think this is one instance where Zoom is really
I do
powerful
too.
because
Advantage.
it, people can do it from wherever they are, even if they're on
Mhm.
vacation. In the past, I've been involved with one superintendent search, and we did it at schools for different groups. And, sometimes people can't come that night or
And then
have
they wouldn't want to
difficulty,
go to
and they
that.
wouldn't
Corona del
come.
Mar
So
wouldn't
I
do
think
it
we
this
may
also.
get more input than in a normal year of doing it.
We've
just in
actually
person.
found, that we're making more of a standard practice to do input by Zoom. People like it better. the participation is much higher on Zoom than when they had to come to either a location or a district office. So
Yeah.
Zoom is we found the participation just skyrockets, and then the surveys, which we, the past several years, it's just, gone that people really enjoy doing the online survey. So it's a nice combination to check everybody's sort of comfort zone.
Yeah.
How do you weigh the in-person information that you get from these community groups versus the survey? So do you take to heart more of that what people say in these small groups or in the survey?
Yeah.
Or is it that different?
So we'll do, once this is all complete, you will see their exact comments from our notes by groups. You'll see the exact comments of everybody, and then there's different graphs in terms of who responded, and then they rank different characteristics. But from that, we pull together what we think are the key components in terms of the qualities that everybody found consistent: personal, professional, the strengths of the district. And from that, we draft a position description that after you've had a chance to review everything, you read our position description, and that becomes what we then would ultimately share out with candidates. And so we try to we don't weigh one group more than another. Although I will say that when we have made personal contact with somebody, it probably influences us a little bit more than when you just read the online survey. But by the same token, then they've ranked things for us in a way that we can take that information and blend it. So I think it's a nice combination of the two of them together, the online survey and the personal input.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I have a question.
Michelle?
I've been part of the CEO searches. I've never been part of a superintendent search, but I do wonder how different across the different districts that you've worked with, how different do these come back? Because at the end of the day, I think probably most of the traits that people are looking for at a superintendent in any district are the same. But am I wrong? Like, I'd love to know that, like, maybe in this area that it's more, in District A, they are more passionate about communication. In District B, they're more passionate about something else. Is that what you see? Or is it generally everyone's looking for somebody who is personable and a visionary leader? And, how does that look across Orange
Well,
County?
there's
and the
obviously some
state?
common kinds of things that typically happen in industry. They want someone with honesty and integrity and transparency. Those are kind of the key, that part of it.
Mhm.
But given what this current year has been like,
Mhm.
it may be some different things that we wouldn't see in another year, if that makes sense.
Yes. that
So,
helps.
so somebody who has had the ability to stand up on some very tough decisions
Mhm.
becomes pretty critical. Spending your resources well. I mean, I was with the board yesterday, and they've gotten through COVID a lot of money. And part of what their community is saying, where is it going? Right? Which is a fair question, because it's been a pretty good chunk of money. So I think it's kind of those sort of leadership things that may rise more to the top, given the current situation.
Okay, so this year we might see different things being valued versus previous years. And in various districts, that's probably more of a focus than in past years. Thank you. That's what I was trying to understand.
And one addition to that, we can't do our search properly unless we do this, because we get a sense of this district, and they are different. They are different. And so when we talk to the teachers and the parents and the classified and the support groups in the elementary, we get a sense of, oh, this is Newport-Mesa. This is the culture. This is the feeling tone. This is the direction. This is the vision. And so then we do create that job description, position description with that in mind, knowing that there are some common traits, but it'll be different. This is a different and unique district. And then when we recruit candidates, it's like we've had this visceral sense of, we have a better feeling for it. And so this would be a good fit, or this wouldn't be a fit. So I think it all pulls together in a nice way about sort of how is it that we give the best sense of what this community as a whole thinks most important. And I think that there are a lot of commonalities from district to district, but there's a lot of differences. And you know that just by your neighboring districts. And I think that'll show up here in it. And what you'll be fascinated to when you read the comments from different groups because they do view life a little.
Oh,
differently.
yes.
And
And
remember,
thank-
the survey is anonymous.
Mhm.
Whereas when we meet with groups, you know what their targeted groups are. And the other ones, they're anonymous. They're just saying what they think.
They're anonymous, but they will say whether they're a parent or a,
And they could
Maybe.
just check other, because some people,
Okay.
they have that option, but yeah.
And that helps me better understand what this process is about, because I was trying to understand if we're, it's good to know that this process will help us tailor that job description to our specific needs. That's very helpful to know. Thank you.
Carol?
So I think given this exhaustive conversation, I think you can sense from us that we really want our stakeholders included in the process, that their voices are heard, and that we reach all of our stakeholders, specifically the community and the staff. And within the community, a delineation between secondary and primary, because to Trustee Weigand's point, we do want to be visionary, and those young families are visionaries. And they're our future customers, per se.
Good.
Thank you.
I think this has been a great conversation, and I think we have a good understanding of it. As we just move through this, let's just
Yeah.
complete it.
Yeah.
And as I said, we'll work with Rosie, so you'll see the outcome of this conversation, and there'll be a chance to kind of tweak it more.
Rosie, you have a big job.
Okay, so since we're doing that,
And we appreciate
that
it.
when we talked about the Newport Mesa Arts Commission and the Youth Sports Commission, those things, those can easily go under in your category, booster groups, but they've got specific names. So there would be a specific email group.
Yeah.
I can give you the.
she can share
Yeah.
that with us if we need, like if you needed to add specific
Just so
data
that,
or whatever.
that was those two, and then the foundation,
They're on here.
well, specifically, the Newport Mesa Schools Foundation. I mean, with the.
Well, I
amount of
would
grants.
imagine that Education Foundation
Yeah,
goes out to
number
like all.
21.
Is that what you're thinking? Like the
21.
Irvine company has their, subsidizes so
no,
that
we're
in
talking
Irvine, they
about
would
the-
want to talk to
The
Irvine people.
Newport Mesa specific.
Yeah.
Schools
Foundation.
Foundation.
Okay,
So
okay.
that's a good group, and we can do the district, and if they're local foundations, that they'll all be
Yeah.
included there.
I agree, Trustee Crane and Trustee Anderson. When you name a group, they feel they feel seen. We see them, we listen to them, we do all the time. But if you don't name them, then they think we don't see them, and
They'll be more likely to attend if we name them
yes.
specifically.
So then if we move to 16, the DLAC, ELAC,
Mhm.
and we'll have bilingual translators there, and, that'll work. And then the city council, this is really up to you, whether you want it. Some places will, some others will say, well, that's not really that important. And that's like the neighboring superintendents. We generally don't necessarily do that. And so what's your opinion on the city council, manager, police chief, and the neighboring superintendents?
Well, I would say we've had some, I guess, great working relationship with cities and maybe not so great working relationship with cities, but we have issues that arise that we need to be on the same page with. So I think it'll be good if we get some city council or city manager. And then the police chiefs, I think, we have the SRO programs. So I'd like to have
Yeah.
them have some input as well, because we fund those jointly. But yeah, I mean, I think they're valid members, and we need to work together with them.
I think having the
Agreed.
SROs is a really good
Good point.
addition, yeah.
To that
Yeah.
group.
All right, so that's done.
I don't really care about neighboring superintendents. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, they come and go
No.
too, so.
I actually, I think we shouldn't even, we generally don't do that. It's
Good.
not essential, important.
The only time it is sometimes is if it's a high school district, there's feeder
Oh,
elementary.
yes.
Sometimes
Oh.
those kinds of people
So,
want.
yeah.
Like
to be
Ocean View
involved.
and Huntington Beach
Yeah.
or whatever.
Right,
Okay.
but
And then did we decide on the boost, the chamber and, the service clubs, and to group all those together?
I would
Yeah.
group
Sure.
them together.
All that.
15, 18, 23?
And
Good
they
number, Lieutenant.
generally, that attendance is pretty low normally.
But it's good to
it
reach out.
depends, it's a good invitation, and there may be a few that come. What was the decision on the booster groups? Were we not going to do that and do more
Well, I really
Yeah.
think that those two groups that we talked about, the Youth Sports Commission Council and the Newport-Mesa Arts Commission, we talk about ourselves as being an arts-focused school district, so, and that is our, invite them. If they don't come, they don't come.
But then we also have booster groups.
I don't know if we
athletic
should do
booster-
individual boosters for every
groups that
high
are
school. 'Cause that
Really,
could go crazy.
But what I was thinking is, our youth sports that are, that use our fields, like
Right,
you know,
AYSO. and stuff.
AYSO, the baseball associations, swim associations, all those kinds of groups and clubs that, we come in contact with that use our facilities.
Right
I mean, it'd be
now,
nice to have them included because then when they get mad at us or something for denying a thing or whatever, be like, well, we value your feedback.
okay, this is just total discussion part, people.
Yeah.
Brett Eccles is currently head of Costa Mesa United, but he's really he's a Newport Beach thinker person, don't you think? We can talk to him and ask him, please include any of the Newport
Right,
Beach groups
yes.
that we don't normally have in our group, because we've talked about expanding that anyway, but it's not that group, blah, blah, blah. So that could be a group, but it's huge, especially in the city of Costa Mesa. The city of Costa Mesa doesn't have enough parks, so we have an agreement that they get to use our schools after 4 o'clock. So that's why it's a strong meeting, that group that comes
Right.
up like that. So I think both of those two groups would be
why
important because they're district wide.
That's why I brought up the youth sports earlier. It's a
Right.
very divergent and large group, whereas the Arts Council is very small. It's like a smaller group of people, whereas we have a joint use agreement. There are a lot of nuances. There's a lot of different opinions in Costa Mesa, and then there's lots of sports in Newport. For me, that's a very large group, and they will have an opinion about a lot of these things.
All right.
So I think what you're hearing, sorry, is that number 20, rather than it being boosters, is that athletic group that we have, which it meets in Costa Mesa, but I think making sure that the invite goes to all
Invite the
those
Newport
Newport
Beach
Beach Aquatics Club
leaders.
and all those specific, that they all come together and have a big sports discussion.
And
there are Newport Beach doesn't have a youth sports group, but they use our fields and our gyms. And so those groups from
Right.
the city should be included.
Yep, they're all one group.
And like
Mhm.
junior
Agreed.
lifeguards and all, I mean, there are a lot of in both cities.
And whenever
wouldn't put
possible, if
lifeguards.
there's we work with Rosie and staff, if there's a leadership group, like. Those are
Right, that's the
sometimes
group we
most
want.
important
Yeah.
To get to that leadership team at those organizations, and they tend to have a really good perspective on it, as
That's-
opposed to
Right.
everything.
That's what we're talking
and that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sports Council, yeah.
But
So
the
I-
things
I-
that I'm just getting a little, I feel a little frustrated because I feel like we're taking up your time when we could be going forward. So many of these parents are in all the same groups.
I was gonna say.
All the PTA
Trustee
moms have
Barber.
kids in elementary, middle school, and high school.
so we'll
And
be-
the foundations, they have kids in multiple levels, and they're in the sports. Like the people who are involved in vocal are in 10 of these
Yeah.
groups. We're going to see the same list of people. I want to see the people who aren't in this like same list of people, like the DLAC people who don't come out to things. I want to see the people who are the parents who are the McKinney-Vento parents. Those parents are the parents that we need to talk to because they're the ones who aren't speaking up. Everyone else on this list will send this out and you'll see 10 of these groups will have the same 20, 25 people district-wide. So like, I just feel like we're really focusing on getting really like tiny slices of who we need to see. And really, we don't need to narrow it down that much because so many of these people are the same people. How do we get to the people who we're working with, the community groups like Project Hope Alliance? Those kinds of people are the ones who have not been involved in this process and are not getting their needs served because they haven't had any kind of a voice. And they have the biggest problem with access. So they're going to be the people we have to track down the most, but maybe that's one meeting or 2 meetings, however we do that for that population, because as we've seen with our declining enrollment, all of these very involved parent groups and community groups are in the schools with the biggest declining enrollment. We need to focus on the schools that don't have the declining enrollment as much. And I don't see those people represented on here. So I just feel like we're getting so specific. Maybe we could just look a little bit more macro.
Trustee Bardo, are you thinking also the nonprofit community partners like Soy, for example, and Girls Inc.? I mean, is that?
Well, I
Or
think
is that what
that
you're
opening it up
thinking,
to community partners, but I just think if we're looking at community facilitators, which is wonderful, and I think we should look at them, why don't we need to ask them what groups we need to reach
Yeah.
out to. Like, I can't make that list. I don't think
Right.
any single one of us can make an appropriate list.
Mhm.
Yes.
So let's ask them, let's ask the principals what groups that they feel should be included, because we don't see those people, so we don't know. I mean, I could list a handful of groups that I know that are involved, but those might not be the best ones. So rather than spending all this time narrowing down who specifically should go in what group, I think we just need to say, there's 100 people who probably fit in groups, to 11 through 22. And then how do we get the people who aren't on this list?
I absolutely agree. And I wonder if that could be through the Community Alliance, and we could
Yeah.
ask for our nonprofit partners to bring one family with them and then
Mhm.
help either
That's not
support them in that process or let them speak.
Yep.
Because I think that would be real. I absolutely agree with Trustee Barto, and I think the Community Alliance is set up for that.
I agree that our community alliance
yeah.
is a robust group of people. And that would encompass a lot of these outside groups
Yes,
that
it's
we're
called CAC.
specifically
Right.
trying to talk about.
Versus us trying to make a list,
Well, then maybe I think we've gotten, great input, and what we want to do is recreate this list and share it with you. And there's a lot of, individual aspects of this for Newport Mesa that have to be adjusted
More
and
unique.
make sure we reach out to everyone. We also want to make sure that we don't get so many groups that we just get overwhelmed. And so, the numbers, we can do between 20 and 30 different groups, and, there's going to be spillovers and so forth. So we want to make sure we get the right people, and that if someone can go to a different group, that the groups together, then that's good. So let us do this. Trust us to put together with Rosie the list, and we'll send it to you. And then we'll just, if you have comments or you think we need to add something, then you can do that.
I do appreciate you noticing that we are a unique district, because we do encompass 2 cities as well. So we work with more stakeholders again. So I like the word unique that you
Yeah.
used
It
to
is.
describe our district.
Absolutely. So we really won't leave anybody off. Who wants to be a part of it, they can. They have to get the invite in order to do that. And then the online survey, a lot of people, lots and lots of folks will also participate in that. So are we through with?
One last item. I just want to note that Trustee Barto's suggestion about the Community Alliance was brilliant. But also, if there's a way, and in the communications of all of this, and when you're putting it out to the public, to just strenuously, suggest just attend one Zoom. If you are a PTA leader, you go to your Harbor, that one, and you don't come to the general, parent in elementary or high school or whatever. The general ones are meant for make that as specific as possible, so that those same people don't flood all the Zooms, which they will try.
Yeah.
Good.
Good point.
Yes.
Sometimes we see people, have we've seen you before.
And we will also have some people being on a Zoom
Yeah.
meeting, and they will also do an online survey.
Of course.
So
Well,
that's,
that may happen
Most likely.
anyway.
That's fine.
We
Okay.
encourage that. We
Mhm.
say, please do the online, because it's a
Sure.
little different slant to the online survey. And
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And students can participate in that survey.
Oh, we
and there are
love
lots of
students.
non-parents who, everybody can participate in that, just identify their classification.
Mhm.
All right, good work on that. We got through 5, the top part of it. So the first bullet is you've determined the stakeholder groups with the draft of it. The next bullet is a position description. We'll ask the district, when we put that together, there's a description of the community and there's a description of the district. It's one you probably use. We'll insert that into the position description. So that'll be something that comes from the district, and you already have it. I think we've seen it on your website too. On the third bullet there, when we do, and this will be after all the community input has been completed, we do an executive summary, where our high level opinion of this, because it'll be a thick document. So you'll see sort of what we gleaned as the top aspects of the input. Then you can read everything else. Then we'll provide you with our draft position description. And then individually, we'll send that to you, and then you can comment on it, just respond back, and we'll send it back in. We'll go back a few times until we get a position description that looks solid by the entire board. It doesn't really require board action at a board meeting, But it just comes back individually to us and it goes back out again. If we have some differences of opinion, then we can figure that out, however it needs to be. Okay. The online survey, the languages.
Spanish.
Spanish. and
Spanish, English,
Yeah,
we
Mandarin.
have Mandarin. Those would be the three majors.
Vietnamese.
What?
I think most of our Vietnamese population is second or third generation now.
Do we need to get that information though from Vanessa? Like,
There you
and-
go.
And Laura
Yeah.
Deltash to see what languages that should go in,
Yeah,
because
the
they would have the,
recommendation.
how that breaks down.
We have in those four major languages. If there's another one that we need assistance from your translators, if we go into some other language that we don't have. Those are probably the two major, Spanish and English, and then the Mandarin and the Vietnamese if necessary. We have that.
That's good.
And Rosie,
She's on it.
there you go.
And this will go, I'm sorry.
No, oh no, I'm just curious, is this the space where we can make recommendations to the survey or discuss?
Yeah, I
particular.
think, let's see, let's
Not
do
yet.
that.
Or is that another
No,
section?
no, I think that's fine. I think that's good.
Oh.
It'll be a good time.
Okay, so I'm just curious, what was the typical, when you do this in other districts, what's the typical response rate that you get?
Well, a district like this, when we first started, it was just a few hundred. Now, a few thousand,
Had a few with like over 4,000.
a few 4,000, 2, 3, I mean, 2 or 3,000, 4,000, it depends, but it's,
Okay.
10%, that's pretty good, right?
it's a very strong.
Yeah.
I think in your community, there'll be a lot,
I-
and we really ask your support in terms of you have all calls, the phone messages,
Mhm.
and that's helpful. You put it on the website and the communications, just as much outreach as possible. And sometimes you even have a local newspaper where you put that
Oh,
in
Student
there
news.
and say, please, we want your input.
And the survey's on your site, so they can click on a link directly onto your site to fill out the survey, but all the data comes to us.
Mhm. Yeah, and the,
Asterisk Annette.
and if the, yes, and if the survey link can be texted out to the parents as well, especially our DLAC parents tend to use text a lot more. That would be really great. So I just had a couple questions about, like question number 1, because there's, 11 different groupings here. I'm curious if it's ever been considered to have sort of less groupings, because then it'll be easier to see the aggregated, chunks of subgroups. If there's just 5 subgroups versus 11, it might be simpler, things like the community member and business and nonprofit, having that be one group, teachers and staff together, just to make it, and like public official, like that really, we might get one of those and they're a
Right.
community member, just kind of cleaning
That would be us.
that.
But it
It's
says
just to
check
be
all that
real.
applies, so.
Exactly. I mean, and it's more meaningful though, when you just force them to check one, so that then we know this is what the parents said. If all the parents there start checking parent and business owner and community member, then that's going to give you much dirtier data than if you just, force choice of like, what are you primarily?
But
Then we can really see the difference between.
I
the parents
understand
and the
that point, but
community.
if someone is a teacher and a parent,
Mhm.
I think they'd have a unique perspective being both, that I would want to know that that's what they are. So, and it does say check all that apply.
That's what I'm saying. It
I mean,
says
I
that.
think it gives us a better idea of where that
Trustee
person's
Ursulou was
coming.
saying, check all that apply, muddies up the data.
But then the other question I
But I don't
had,
think
so of the 11 categories, if there could just be less categories, that would be my primary ask, that some of these are merged. But secondarily, can we add a question too that asks them what zone they are in, or what zone they
Oh.
consider, are you teaching in, if it is a teacher, are you teaching in that zone? Is your community group in that zone? Are you a parent in
like
that
that.
zone? Just so that we know what zones these answers come from.
How many zones do you have?
Or,
So we'll do zone 1, 2, 3, or 4.
no, it's
They would have names.
high school names.
Okay, we'll get that.
And you
We'll
can,
get
yeah.
that. I'm wondering though, just so we don't lose your comment, we can do zones. And I do wonder if maybe we could combine just a few of those, like I think your point's well taken, like the public official. I wonder
You
if
don't
we could
care.
have business owner, partner, public official, or nonprofit. I mean, we could combine the public official is probably only gonna have a few there, in the nonprofit or school volunteer. It's really up, it's up to you. I mean, we can combine a few, or you can keep it
Yeah.
separate. You will see how
I-
they respond.
But it's primarily about what story do you want to be able to tell when you have this data? Yeah, I want to be able to know, for me personally, I want to know the teachers in general want someone with this characteristic. The parents in general want this, and the general community at large is interested really in this. Those are the really three big stakeholders. So I just want to make the data as clean as possible so that we can see those distinctions when they arise.
As someone who does surveys for a living.
Yeah, I would almost clarify too, and I agree, because I think two things. We need to specify that they're a parent in the district, because I think just off the top, if you're a teacher, you'll go, well, I'm a parent too, but maybe your students aren't in the district. You might have a question as to which to check, which would mess up the data. But also, we've received survey results in the past when we were going through online learning from our thought exchanges from parents who had children enrolled in private school in South County. So they jumped in on our survey. They had opinions on how to do things. They were a parent, like, you know, they lived in our area, but they really didn't have, their input was not as important to designing our curriculum and the way we handled it as just, you know, the parent who's got the student in our schools. So I think that we have a community that likes to comment on a lot of things. So I think just clarifying like that.
You would
like-
want them to be a community member and not a
We
parent.
want them to be a Newport-Mesa.
Yes,
parent
are
or
you a
guardian.
Newport-Mesa parent or guardian? I think that's going to make a huge difference, because if someone says, oh, I want horseback riding and Mandarin, like that's not, I mean, that a superintendent would bring those extracurriculars.
I was
Those,
just
that's not relevant. Yeah,
I'm sorry. I was just suggesting after parent, we could put in parentheses with a student in Newport-Mesa Unified School
perfect.
District.
Yeah.
Is there even, this might be taken too far, but a way to like, then they can have a drop down right there where it will, you can then put your zone in there? Cause then it would,
We'll work with Becky
You-
on that.
okay, yeah, cause then it
Yeah.
would just get
That
it
might
cleared
be-
up right there.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go through this and see if this consolidation works for you.
Okay,
Yep.
Because I
okay,
think
go
that there's, so we have a parent, guardian, with a student in Newport Mesa, and then a student,
Right?
then a community member.
A student in Newport Mesa, right? Do we want
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, because remember when we had all those protests, we
Yeah.
had college students from from
Oh,
Golden
that's
West
right.
College who had a lot of
So
opinions.
current
So they are
Newport Mesa
students.
student.
oh, current, there we go.
Well,
So we can put that in parentheses.
well,
And-
yeah, but if you just, if you graduated
Yeah,
2 years
you would
ago, you
want
might have
that.
a really good opinion.
But then they would be a community
As a
member at that
Exactly,
point.
they're a community
Good
member.
point.
And then a community member, which is a broad classification, which is helpful. A lot of people just say, I'm just a community. member,"
Yes.
And that fits for me. A teacher / certificated. So, you know,
Well-
and
In New, should we also add in Newport Mesa? I mean, would there,
I think,
I don't think we need to.
I think
No?
most people who are
Okay.
gonna
It's gotta be
complete the
your link.
survey,
Most people are just gonna come from with it.
you know,
Well,
teacher-
administrator is different. That's a whole
Administrator is
different point.
different, but-
Okay.
We had teacher and certificate, I think just teacher / certificated. You know, that's, even if you're a certificated person, you're still a
That's your-
teacher, maybe you're a teacher on special assignment, you're doing something else.
Right.
Well, you're also, if you say teacher / certificated, you're talking the nurses, the school
Yeah, all that.
psychologists, the speech pathologists. That's the other certificated group.
That's
So if we don't need them as a, I mean, I'm just asking us, we don't need
they
them.
could be combined.
Okay, fine.
Because let's remember that we're gonna have the community sessions that are gonna be the
Right.
subgroups. So
That's right.
this is very general,
Yeah,
because we are gonna get into the weeds with our
that's right,
Zoom sessions,
yeah.
committee session.
So then classified employee,
Right.
and then administrator.
Yep.
And then I'm suggesting that we
Lose all
we
the rest.
combine, we strike the certificated school volunteer, public official, and then have something to say business owner, partner, nonprofit, public official, or just,
Because those are all just community. They're just elements of the community.
yeah, I think they're almost the community.
I do
agree.
too.
I agree.
I really, strike it.
Yep.
I think that gets us down to just 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 groups.
Could you go over them again?
Okay. Parent guardian with a student in Newport Mesa, a student, Newport Mesa, community member, a teacher / certificated, a classified employee, and an administrator,
And then
And
other.
then other.
and other, and then a drop down somehow of the zoning.
It could even be like, that's number one. Number two could be, what zone do you most
Yeah.
affiliate with? And just that general, because if you're a business person in Newport Beach, you would affiliate yourself with either Newport Harbor or Corona Del Mar, and you could pick one. It's not that difficult to figure out which high school you're with. Or NA, you know,
Or
So-
all.
or all. Ooh, all would be good, because as a board member, I hate having to pick one.
Well, when we say zone, maybe school zone, put the word school
Yeah.
zone, because they.
Well, we would probably have the names of
They'd be
them.
cheap.
You'd
They'd
have-
be-
Because that's
there we-
even better.
I would like that rather
Yeah,
than a drop
definitely
down.
identified by like
Good.
Costa Mesa zone.
So we'll have to figure
right.
this out too, at a later date.
Or all or
Before
none.
we do this, because how you get the information, how sophisticated is our software to
Right.
produce this? So what I think you'd like to see is if a zone, if you could see how the zone, this
Thinks.
zone
How they feel.
responded
Uh-huh.
as a whole zone.
Yes.
and this zone responded versus parents in this zone. It may
No,
only
no.
work if the whole zone responded in this way. So
A separate number.
we're gonna work on this and get it back. I don't know if it's gonna be absolutely perfect, but we're gonna really try to include all of this for you in a way that makes sense. And you can
Excuse me.
identify the important.
And just so you know, Becky's watching us, and she's going to be figuring this out as we go.
We'll
She's
actually,
been texting me with messages about this one.
Becky and Rosie are gonna have a deep conversation.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're gonna be best buddies.
Well,
And
we're-
Rosie, I believe Annette is also watching, right? Okay.
Hi, Annette.
And it, depending on the program tool that you're using, you might even just be able to put the little picture of the zones, you know, the
Oh, that's a
picture
good
that shows the
idea.
4 zones. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4,
That
and then ask
PDF?
them to pick, you know. which
All or
ones.
none.
Yeah, or name them Estancia Mesa, whatever. And then you just have the little photo
A
there.
visual
So
is
people
very
can
good
see
idea.
where is their,
This
what,
is
what does this mean? Yeah.
So as we go through then, just take each page very briefly, we're asking them to rank the characteristics, and that does begin to show you what the community or the different groups feels, the ranking of importance. And then
That's cool.
ranking personal characteristics, you can see is number 8. Then I think I came out of order a little bit just based upon how I was looking at this. I apologize. If we go back to where it says the questions that we ask, the district strengths and challenges, and that's page 3. This is really helpful. You'll see every comment. We only redact something if it's highly inappropriate, but you see everything.
I have a question. For me, Trustee Anderson, in my opinion, a strong communicator is very, very, very valuable. And I looked through these and I didn't see one that fit that, and maybe I just missed it. Can you? And I don't know whether it would be professional or personal.
Strong one. I'm sorry.
Communicator.
Which number question?
I don't know. It's in desired personal or leadership characteristics. And
Wait, we were on
So-
page 3.
So
Where are you
number
guys?
8,
I don't have,
Number 7.
I thought we moved from 6, 7 to 8. I thought it was all over the place.
I think in 7 there it says has strong human relation skills and is a people person, but maybe you can elaborate on one of
Strong
those.
communication skills.
Yeah.
and as a
Strong,
people
I'm
skill.
truly, what
Yeah.
we hear from people all the time is how wonderful it has been that we've gotten so many wonderful messages. I don't want to lose that on someone who's got these great skills, but is kind of shy and doesn't want to be out there and or has a plan to accommodate that if they're shy personality. They can say, I'm very shy, but I definitely will have these 5 people in your district be doing these messages, something that,
It is one of the complaints I hear the most often
Thank
and
you.
have heard less in the past couple months, which has been nice. But in general, for the past couple of years, I've heard that we need to work on our communication to the public.
So it could be a question adjusted slightly that has strong communication skills and is a people person.
sure.
communication skills is good.
Okay, we can adjust that question.
Instead of human relations
Which
skills.
is actually
I think
different.
it's
We need to
maybe
be-
more direct. and highlight the.
Especially for us, human relations means something different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. That's a good point.
Good points, Trustee Anderson.
So we're gonna 7
Thank you.
and then move on to
Mhm.
8.
Yeah, and can we just go to 6 for 1 second? I'm just having a hard time figuring out where bilingual should belong because it's really an outlier in number 6. They're following professional experience. I don't know if it's a professional experience to be bilingual. It's more of a personal characteristic or a professional characteristic. And it just seems sort of out of place. And if there were less choices here, then it'd be 1 through 6 and it'll get, tighter responses, which would be nice. But I just can't figure out the best home for bilingual either.
That's how I felt with
It's
communication.
not really a characteristic, but
Yeah.
it fits with the one word answers on that one.
Yeah.
But, maybe if you change bilingual, say has experience, is bilingual and has experience working with diverse communities or something like that.
Something like
or-
that. Diverse communities, maybe,
Yes.
rather than straight up bilingual. Yes.
That's a good,
And move it under the,
The
Seventh
professional
category.
experience. Well, no, I think it could,
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you
Professional
think it-
experience, I think adding what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
okay.
So that's in-
Experience and
that's on
diverse
number 7.
communities.
Yes. Would you repeat?
Has experience in working with diverse communities.
Yeah,
Slash
Slash
bilingual.
bilingual.
And
Bilingual,
or bilingual. And or, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
yeah.
We got smart people. in
Okay.
this.
Anything else on 6? I think 7, we
Sorry.
did go through.
There was, for me. Back to me, sorry.
We made the change on the strong communication skills and as a people person.
Right.
Then 8 are, and this
Well,
has the
wait a
equity
second.
minded in it too, which is, it just doubles it up, which is absolutely fine.
Mhm.
Um,
Could you also put something in here about communication as well and
Yeah.
characteristics? Because, then you would really get, and I'm not a survey guru like Trustee Ursula, but you would get it if they both rank that high and then communication here high, then you're like, oh, okay, that's really effective, you really want that. So somewhere, somehow characteristic of
I think we can add.
communicative leader.
add
or-
that. Are you listening, Becky?
Yes, Becky's.
Okay.
Excellent. Got it.
Survey as
Good
you
job.
survey.
Yes, we want a superintendent with all of those qualities. I was like, yes, absolutely.
It may sound a little silly, but can we alphabetize them just so that it doesn't show a favorite, like,
Yeah, I could do that.
I think actually
no?
my experience with it has been, it's been good to have it random.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I
really?
think they just
Yep.
sort of like, oh, okay, yeah, so people move around. I think it
Mm.
has some benefit to be random.
Okay.
Random is usually good, except when it's rank order, then it helps you remember to go back and put numbers when it is alphabetical, but it's totally your call. I have a question back to number 3. Because the way,
Question number 3?
yes, the way that it's worded for number 2, what do you see as the strengths of the district? Then number 3, what do you see as the challenges of the district? But the confronting our superintendent, the wording is
Yeah.
more
Confront.
heavy than it would be simpler for people to respond. The strengths of district, what are the challenges of the district, facing the district?
What do you see as major challenge facing the district? Sure.
And then can we perhaps move question 5 to be at the very end after 8? Because we're giving them all these opportunities to rank and discuss all these qualities. So then number 5 would really be sort of after the fact, after you've done these 3 rank order questions.
That's a
Is
good
there
point.
anything more, any other quality that's still outstanding in your mind? If we ask them too early, they might not have
Or make it
a
number 9.
response.
Make it
Yeah,
number 9.
Just
all by
move
itself.
5 to 9.
Yeah.
Mhm. It would be 8, yes, to the end.
Or move it to 8, last question.
Yeah.
Mhm.
8.
So are you saying move the open-ended questions to the end?
No,
Just
just
number
number
five.
5,
Just number 5.
only number 5,
Okay.
because it's sort of a follow-up to those 3 drop-down
Okay.
So
questions.
one thing we'll have to check on, because this is computer generated in terms of graphs. This is a statement that's made, so we probably can do it, but let's check on that.
Yeah, it could be 9, its own subsection. The thought that I had for under number 6, I think particularly because this is going out for our community, right? It's not going to other superintendents. For number 6, several of these are what I believe are the roles of the cabinet. I would like to see some items under here, like, for me, it's really important that a superintendent comes around that has experience doing school transformation and school turnaround. It's less important to me that they're an experienced in managing school facilities.
But it may be important to your community.
Right, but I think that people have, particularly in our district, have a pretty good understanding of who's in charge of the facilities versus the superintendent. Yes, everything is under his purview or his or her purview. But I think for me, if I'm looking for a superintendent, I'm not saying who's the person who's an expert at facilities. I want someone who knows schools. So the two things, I would like somebody who has experience in school turnaround or systems transformation. And then somebody who also has experience, I believe we had talked at one point, in public education, either in teaching or site administration. For me, it is an essential quality that somebody has taught in a classroom.
Then you'd rank that number 1.
And well, I wouldn't rank it number 1 actually, but I value that highly. And I think that's really different if someone has only been an administrator. So for the first option, it says experience in public education, either teaching and or site administration.
It's my understanding, and you don't have to be a teacher to be a site administrator, but you have to be a professional in the profession that you're in, for example, to be a site administrator. So you could be a school psychologist and be a site administrator, or you could be a speech therapist and but you have to have the experience in your field in order to be a site administrator. So when it says either teaching and or site administration, I don't know how they'd get to the superintendent level without taking that path. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do understand that, and having my
what do you-
master's in education, I understand that route. I think for me, it's very important that someone has been a classroom teacher and has not done, if someone is a certificated teacher at some level, that's something too. But for me, it's really like one of the things that I want focused on is elementary academics. So I want someone who really knows that well. That's a high quality thing for me. So that's what I'm trying to.
But wouldn't that be
easily-
something we
No.
discuss as a board later
Yes.
when we're looking through the applicants? That would be.
Right, I just, for me, number 6, several of these are not in the, they're not direct experience that I think that a superintendent has to have. So,
Well,
But if I can chime in, also the issue, I think perhaps to Trustee Metoyer's, you want each of these drop-down elements to be a singular item, like only if, like, must you be a teacher to be a site administrator? Or can you be a site administrator without having been a teacher?
Yes,
And
you
if you can, then they need to be 2 separate elements. This with the second one, experience in executive level cabinet, assistant superintendent or superintendent. But then the next question is, have you been a superintendent? So again, you want
These are
each
very
drop-down
different.
item to be one singular element and not multiple. So if teacher is one element, have you been a superintendent is one element. Have you been an assistant superintendent? Have you been a site administrator? If it's impossible to be an assistant superintendent without having been a site administrator, then you'd have that as a question
But
too.
remember, this is just ranking whether they think these experiences
Right.
are important, not what you're hiring.
Oh, yes, absolutely. No, no, no,
being
but
a
just to
teacher is
get,
different than being an administrator. So if you are a person who wants to know, were you a teacher, you'd want that in a separate category than were you a site administrator.
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah.
This is not for people applying for the job.
I
This is
know.
what
no,
we
no, no,
want.
this is just to
know.
get clear
This-
data about what people are interested in.
And this is for our community. And I think a lot of our community is informed enough to know that some of these are not the purview necessarily. I agree.
So what people do
Move on.
here, what you see is a ranking of what the most important thing
Mhm.
was. And so we can, number 1 can be easily combined, and it makes sense, experience in California as a classroom teacher and site administrator. That's just saying and that's the question we ask. Should someone have been a teacher and a site administrator? Because there are some districts that will hire a non-traditional. So that's a good clarification on this, that both of those are important qualities to have. And you you generally aren't one without the other, but this just clarifies it. Number two, what it says is, this is not a starter district, Newport Mesa.
No.
So should the person have had cabinet level experience at the very least, or have been a superintendent? So that's that question.
But you could take away assistant superintendent or superintendent, because the next question is, have you been a superintendent? So if they've been a superintendent, you don't need that
Yeah.
there.
Well, the purpose, that's in parentheses as an example, because now remember, a lot of people are looking at this, they don't know what.
They don't know what
cabinet
you're
is.
talking
Well,
about.
that's.
They also don't know what executive cabinet is.
Well, that's what, can you, sorry, because I wouldn't have known what an executive cabinet level, and I think that's where
Mhm.
you're going
That's-
with this,
Yeah.
is that, can you say executive cabinet
Example.
level at a district level position or something like that to clarify what a cabinet level position is?
If an executive cabinet level is an assistant superintendent
Or
or
superintendent.
superintendent, then I would just put, do you have experience as an assistant superintendent? Because the next one is, do you have experience as a superintendent? So.
Can
this
you
is what
say
they
at
value,
a
it's not whether
school
they have.
district, just
It's
because
whether-
I'm
what your
thinking people will
community
be like,
values, though.
Right.
like say a business person would look at this and be like cabinet level position. Oh, okay, like
Mm.
for any, not just at a school district, but
Mhm.
like at a company or something like that. So I think it just, we got to think from the lens of everyone in the community might not be,
Exactly.
know our acumen.
Like a
So would it
district
be
administrator, like a
Experience
district level
as an
administrator.
executive in an executive level position, such as an assistant superintendent or superintendent?
Well, the thing
No.
is, you ask specifically,
Well, no, the one
experience
next
as a. s-
one is, and we can change, take.
Oh, I see, it's because it's comparable
comparable.
district.
No, the third one
Got it,
is experience in a comparable district.
got it.
So I
So
could
it'd
be
be
a
unified.
superintendent up in Stanislaus County.
Right.
Not much similar. So we could
Mhm.
say experience in a comparable district and take out superintendent because we've included it in
Okay,
above.
I got that.
But a lot of people, the reason that's in there is someone will say, and you can't always get this, but I want someone who has experience as a superintendent
Yeah. A
in a
unified
comparable district.
school district.
That is a very definable statement. And I suspect this.
And that has come up. I can remember in the search that I was involved in, that was a really important
That's a good
point.
And when it came up, President
you.
Yelsey, did it come up because people wanted something of the same size or bigger? Because I'm wondering if that question, rather than comparable, because again, this is about, can people understand the survey well enough to answer it, clearly for us? But is it that they want comparable or bigger, or
They-
just not
they- They
smaller?
want at least comparable to what
least.
we've done. And some people will want, say, that we want someone who has already had superintendent experience.
Mhm.
I remember those things both of those things coming up.
And size is a different thought than unified.
Mhm.
Because to get someone that's only been an elementary superintendent is a way different, or only a secondary superintendent, a union high school district versus an elementary district. And that's just, does the public want that or doesn't want that? But
That's where
But comparable
comparable
covers it all,
comes in.
and this is asking the public, this is getting general. We can pick it apart later.
We need to have the survey clear enough that people can answer it. But at the end of the day, we're just trying to get you information that gives a general sense
it.
of what, because people will say, I want someone who's been a classroom teacher and a site administrator, or I want someone who's had experience in a comparable district. So
The other thing I'd say is, remember, this all gets rolled into all the other information, all the input, all of the stuff you give us to really refine what you really are picking.
Right.
Not necessarily what the community is going to pick, you're picking. And so it really pulls it all together. And I think in using the survey for as many years as we've had, we have found that the responses really give you a very good profile.
Mhm.
And you don't need to be so specific
Mhm.
because the community wants just general kinds of things. They're not going to narrow it down. You're going to narrow it down.
Yeah.
And your community, the groups we meet with will really narrow it down. And then what you'll see again is all the themes that emerge out of this, because the common things are there. You're going to find, my guess is they're going to want, and not every district hires somebody who's been a classroom teacher. But I bet that's a pretty common one here. They want somebody who's been a teacher. They'll want somebody who's been a site administrator. most people who haven't been a principal struggle in the role of superintendent. They just do. Not everybody, but certainly
Mhm.
that's not uncommon. So
Yeah.
you're going to see that with that. Remember, they've got a lot of other places where they can write comments.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I think you'll find it'll work well.
No,
one
and
of
I think,
the-
oh, go
One
ahead.
of the words that for me, I think I would like to strengthen is for 7 and 8, the word visible.
Wait a minute.
Oh,
Okay, where are you
We're
on
on
question
6.
7 and 8?
should we finish 6 first,
Sure.
just to make sure?
I just have one last thing on 6. So if the bilingual one is now adapted to what was discussed before, so it's experience in a diverse district. So now that's an option, right? That's a clear option in 6.
Yes.
Then the other element that trustee Anderson had brought up, an element about transformation and/or turnaround. Is that a concrete one that's been added to 6, just to make sure that folks have that as a choice? And they might rank it low, but just to
Could-
have that.
Would we want to maybe change or alter the last statement, question there? A proven track record of growing academic achievement, especially for special needs students, second language, and children experience poverty. Could that question be reworked to reflect what you're talking about?
Well, I think what Ashley was suggesting, sorry, I should tell Trustee Anderson we're supposed to do, was suggesting that maybe the facility one is not as important
Yes.
and could be deleted and say, has experience in transforming schools to better serve students or whatever wording, but something like that. Is that?
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that didn't get lost in all that.
Okay,
Thank you.
so we're going to drop out the school facility one and add this one. Thank you. All right. Now, trustee Anderson, you were going to
Sure. Thank
number
you.
6?
7 and 8.
Yes, 7 and 8, just the word visible. Our district has very high demands of their superintendent, so just showing up in an event, to me, visible is like someone is there sometimes. And so I think the word like for 7 will be highly engaged at our schools and community events. I think it's just
Trustee Anderson, which one down?
on number
Desired
7, the
personal
one second to the
characteristics?
bottom
Second to the, okay.
will be highly, it says visible.
yeah.
Oh, I see.
I just think visible just means a body is there, and
Not
our
visible and- you want
district.
visible and engaged
Or
I'm
accessible?
sure. I think maybe
And
both would be
engaged.
good.
Visible and
Second
engaged.
to the bottom.
at school, our schools.
Yeah.
And then on 8, also visible as a personal characteristic is not really like a personal characteristic.
And I
it's-
was wondering if that one could be what trustee Metoyer had said before, if visible could be changed to communicative, like, or, because
Or
visible isn't.
Authentically charismatic. Something, but I feel like visible is just like.
Yeah.
Someone's body is present. That's not a personal characteristic to me.
What's a word there, a single word for communication? Collaborative, accountable, great, what would be the?
I genuinely like authentically charismatic, but that's.
Well,
No,
Yeah,
how
you
do
could-
we,
I
I'm
don't
thinking
think
of like
everybody loves them.
transparency and can we do something like that?
Communicator?
We've already,
Well, you're.
what we
trying
had
to-
has strong communication skills.
yeah,
Right,
Yeah.
right, right. I was okay. It doesn't have to be 19. Like you said.
How about?
Maybe
engage-
accessible,
engage?
accessible.
Well, I think we want the
Engaged?
consistent amount of communication from our superintendent where we do like weekly updates or, these video messages or something like that. We like that part of a superintendent. So something where.
But strong people skills.
I think engaged is a word
Extrovert?
good.
engaged or accessible?
Well, a term we've used on our things in the past, and I don't know how everyone feels about this, but it's a term that's familiar to our public, is face of the district. Is that something that we want to, do we want to throw out that term, or is that like
Which term?
on a lot of our
Face of the.
face of the,
of the
he's the
district.
face of the district?
What about strong interpersonal skills?
That's fine. Yeah, that's great.
Well, that doesn't mean that
I think we-
they're necessarily,
But I still want them to have, and is that getting too much in the weeds? We still want them to be able to communicate to the public frequently, like doesn't shy away.
But you've
from-
got that.
How about
7.
skilled
we get that?
communicator?
Sorry.
Skilled communicator.
Yeah,
That's 2 words. That's good.
we can do that.
Instead of visible?
Yeah, skill communicator.
But 2 up we have has strong communication skills, so.
'Cause, didn't we change has strong human relations skills
Yeah.
and strong
Yeah.
communication skills?
Vi-
And is a people person?
We're on 8 though.
Visible, it is there are school leaders administrators that kind of can lock themselves off, and you don't ever see them.
Oh, yes.
Visibility or accessibility is a trait that is desired by parents particularly, and staff members, as a matter of fact.
So-
So
I
we
love
have
accessibility.
That's what I
Accessibility
think
to me.
trustee Crane's word of being engaged is a good one,
Mm-hmm.
engaged at the schools and community events.
Okay, so I'm sorry. Can
Visibly
we keep with
engaged.
one thing, personal or professional? I'm getting confused back and forth.
This is all
I-
on 7.
Okay.
We're on
Oh,
seven.
I thought we were on 8.
See, that's what I mean.
We're on
8
eight.
is the single words and
Yeah.
7 is
Oh,
sentences.
okay, I'm lost
Ronnie,
then.
what,
What number are you thinking?
we were on number 8. I
Yes,
thought,
number
Okay.
8.
Okay,
Because
so
we're doing single word there.
For single word, I would like accessible. And then for, because we say highly engaged for
We could say
7.
accessible and engaged. We could do that as one. Let's do that. Accessible and engaged. Is that okay?
instead of visible.
Instead of visible.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Beautiful. Thank
So, can we finish with this now?
One last one, sorry.
Yes,
Sorry.
yeah, we'll always have something else.
Number 7, there's just, because I was looking at this as a parent, okay, what are the things that I really, want to see in terms of this person's leadership characteristics when they enter this district? And something, and I don't know what it would be called, but it has like communication accessibility, but something about like attention to data, interest in data, excitement around data, data driven, something,
Data-driven.
data and
Data-driven is
something,
perfect.
and something innovation. Like, is this person going to lead us in an innovative way?
Visionary?
Something, because they had visionary as a personal skill, a personal characteristic, but I really see like, as a leader, I want a leader that's going to want to go do research and innovate and find, the coolest thing that's going on in whatever state, and bring it here, something around that, but I don't know how to say it.
I do think we get that a lot at Innovator. Everyone says, we're Newport-Mesa, we should be blah, blah, blah. We should have the most innovative teaching styles and this and this and this. I think we get that a lot because of the.
That could go under number 8, innovative.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah,
We hear that a lot.
That's
Maybe-
probably a
which is under visionary. or
Maybe
where would it-
visionary / innovative or something.
visionary,
Yeah.
visionary,
And
visionary
in-
/ innovator.
Yeah,
Innovative,
Mhm. Yeah, that would be
that's
good.
good.
innovative.
So then it's
yeah.
just the data one, wherever that can fit.
Now, on number 7, to go back to your point, we could say is a data-driven leader. Something-
Yeah, because
Or
there's other
considers-
elements
Instead
about,
of strong instructional leader, a data-driven leader.
Or considers, highly considers data, because I think data driven, be like, that's all I do is I'm data driven.
Is a strong data-driven
Or a
instructional
strong
leader.
instructional leader who uses data.
Will you
Yeah, okay,
use
there you
data
go,
to
there you go,
maintain,
that utilizes data. that
to improve
utilizes
student
data.
achievement gains?
Yeah, that's
Oh, yeah,
good.
that-
Okay. Going once? How are we doing for? And now,
This is good.
we're gonna clean this up. And because we want to get this, your desire is to get this on,
Absolutely.
the website ASAP. We can send this out to you even this afternoon and then get just a quick response from you. And please try to be understanding if it isn't totally perfect, but if we need to change something, we can do that. Today's Thursday.
Thursday.
I think we want to try to get it out tomorrow if we can, if that's possible.
Yes.
We can wait longer, but the sooner the better. That was your intent.
Yeah,
Okay, our process for that. Leadership will send it to us. We send our comments to you.
No.
You want them back right to you?
back to him.
Okay, thank you.
And that avoids, yeah, everything comes back to us individually.
We've got to make sure we don't have Brown Act violations. and
Thank
all
you.
that.
That's why I asked the process.
And then if we make changes, we'll send it out one more time and say we did a few changes. And then all we'd ask for you, we'll put a time specific. If we don't hear back from you by a certain time, then we're going to move forward with it. And we'll give you enough time to do that. But just be checking your email the next 24 hours or so.
If you get
Yes.
changes from individual members, can you, when you send it back to us, can you highlight what those changes
will.
were so we can just,
Well, we won't say who
right to
did
it.
it, but we'll have it changed.
okay.
Mhm, Good suggestion.
Good. Peggy?
Yeah, I think as long as Becky can.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
Has strong human relations skills and a proactive thought.
All right. Yeah, do
Oh, my goodness.
you want to take a short break or keep going? What's your druthers?
Because we have a few more important, really.
Yeah, because then we are going into closed session, correct?
Yeah.
We've got a timeline, and that's
Yeah.
gonna take a few minutes, obviously. And
Yeah,
then
let's do
we've really
that.
gotta still
Okay.
focus on what your input is.
Okay.
It's up to you.
Let's do
Is
timeline.
everybody okay?
Continue?
Yeah, we could
Let's
step out if we need to,
continue.
right?
Okay.
Mhm.
step up, yeah. All right, so we're on number 6. And so what we would like to do right now is go through the entire timeline, but using the timeline itself. All right. And then, so if we start with, we had board input have been today. So service characters. So the early June is June 3, which is today. And we're going to do that.
Oh, okay.
So the third block there is board confers with consultants and determines characteristics. So that's going to go to June 3, which is today. And then the June and July is when, and we'll talk more specifically about the weeks that we'll do this, but that's when we will do the community input. And we don't need to put a specific date on that. We'll work with that. But the online survey is posted to district website, and we're going to shoot for that being just within the next few days.
And just to clarify, we decided on option 2 because you felt that that was the most reasonable for what we could
Yes.
do,
Yes.
correct? Yes.
I'm sorry.
We decided on option 2 because you felt that was the most realistic.
Yes,
Good.
yes.
We decide on that as a, I don't remember.
We'll go through it too. This probably is going to become even the third option. also. Too.
They're a hybrid of both.
Yeah.
And then June 28th and July 14th, those are our dates, and those are really critical because although it's going to go on our website right after this meeting, and we've already had conversations with individuals, when it hits the EdCal, then that's very significant. It puts the information there, and it also says when the deadline is. And so we're looking at posting this on EdCal June 28th and July 14th. Those are the publication dates. And then we're looking at closing on July 26th. Those are really internal for us more than for the board. Then all the applications come in and we do our reference checking. And so this is the first date that we need to look at for a 2 to 3 hour session to review all the applications. Prior to this date, whatever that date is, we'll send to you 3 to 5 days ahead of time every application. We would have tiered the candidates, we would have provided the position description, and you'll see everybody. But you'll see kind of what our thinking is. You'll do your homework for those 3 to 4 to 5 days, and then when we have that session, which is closed session, because personnel, the determination will be made who you wish to interview. And so at this point in time, we need to look at what date works best and what time for a 2 to 3 hour session. And maybe with this board, 3 hour session for sure.
You're learning quickly.
Thank you for acknowledging our uniqueness.
Yes.
And that's absolutely fine. So it makes, Peggy, you got your calendar. We're also working with Sandy and with Kent. So we're just trying our best. We're all part of the search, but it depends on where the schedules are. But for sure, Peggy and I want to make sure that we have this. So what looks good to the board in that August timeframe?
Okay. School starts on the 7th. We have a board meeting on the 17th.
But it's the week of August 9th.
And
That's what we're looking.
students,
Week of August
okay,
9th.
all right. Wide open.
I'm open.
What about that Thursday? Are you still booking these Thursdays?
Well, we haven't booked out that far, but.
No.
We could.
We could, yeah.
If you.
12th?
if you do
Thursday, the
that,
12th.
From 8:30 to
Whenever.
Yeah, go to noon and it won't take that long. 9:30, 10:30. Yeah, something like that.
But those of you that have meetings and works and stuff like that, make that noon a little soft, because otherwise what happens is
Right, then we get stressed.
we bleed over.
It makes sense.
Okay, that's,
August 12th.
and that's a really, I mean, that's a really important meeting. And okay,
These are all special board meetings, correct?
yes, yeah, and that will be a closed session.
So is that 8:30? Is that right?
Yeah, 8:30.
Okay, August 12th.
You think we could have coffee that by then, Rosie?
We may know in a couple weeks.
My suggestion is you have food. It's always better with food.
Thank you.
Then the interview schedule is the week of August 23rd. We've traditionally done that on a Saturday. But it doesn't matter. Actually, it doesn't, well, for the candidate, you know. since
They
it's
need a
not in the middle
Saturday,
of the week, a Friday and Saturday. We do that off-site generally at a hotel, and it's more
If it's a
private.
Saturday, you could do it here.
If it's Saturday, we could do here.
A Saturday would be what?
You could do it here. You don't want to have interviews going on when staff's here.
Absolutely.
Okay,
If it's not, it's, hotels nice, but you can also do it here if it's a Saturday, and just need rooms where one candidate can wait while the other's being interviewed and get that candidate out so they don't run into each other.
and we couldn't start before the 23rd. It could, if we're meeting on the 12th.
What happens is, the 12th, no, actually, we
Could do it the 21st.
could do it, could do it 21st.
Mhm.
Or I think Peggy, we do the 21st. Don't we have our meeting on the,
Our advances is 29th, 30th, 31st.
August,
Later.
my son's getting married that day.
On the 21st?
That's what I did. there.
Way to have some priorities
I-
going,
I-
Well,
Dennis.
the other challenge on that though, Dennis, is if other Sandy and
Yeah.
I could handle it.
Yeah,
You're not gonna
yeah.
miss your kid's wedding.
Yeah, no, I can do that, but, so, I mean, we could do it earlier, or we do it in the middle of the week, actually.
I
18th
would
and
prefer the
19th.
middle of the week.
We want to
Of
give the
which-
candidates time after the selection, after you decide on the 12th who's going to get interviewed. We'll notify the candidates. They'll need a few days to make arrangements to, if they're traveling or any of those kinds of things. So, we could go the 18th, 19th, it gives a week. If we tell them ahead of time when the interviews are, they'll make arrangements, but the actual candidate who's going to get
Right.
interviewed won't know until the 12th.
How many do you think will be interviewing?
By
roughly?
the 19th, 20th.
Typically, you'll interview 5 or so,
Okay.
not usually more than that, sometimes 6, but it just kind of depends.
And for how long a period?
Each interview is an hour for the first round, and then you want time to deliberate, figure out who you might want to bring back for the second. Most boards, almost all of our searchers, they do it all in one day, makes for a long day. Some boards want to go on to a second morning just to have some time. It just sort of depends. But I think whatever it is, it's an all dayer.
So you take like about 30 minutes in between each to,
Yeah, take some minutes in between, and the next candidate, there's, depending on how many, then there's a break for lunch, that kind of
Okay.
thing. And then you deliberate, bring them back later that afternoon, or sometimes it goes into evening. It just sort of depends. But again, if it's a weekday, you're going to need to find another location. Although will schools be in session?
Yes,
Not on the
Yeah, it will
19th.
be.
teachers will be
Teachers will
back.
be back.
If I,
staff will be
Can I
in
ask-
school,
Staff
but
will be
they're,
in their schools.
Location shouldn't be a problem.
is there a way to possibly,
Why?
so, because it sounds like we might want to give, for me, it would be better to do Saturday. I know several of us work, so I think, and if we're having potential people come in, they may be currently working.
Right.
So I think the Saturday sounds really great. So you said the 21st is no.
Well, just
Is
no
there-
for me, we could,
Well, one of the things I
and
think,
the
'cause we had to-
28th
if it's
is a no
kind
for
of,
me, but I could do the 29th. I mean, if you
If-
want to do Sunday.
I can just.
okay, so this is one of the ideas that I have, this, if it's kind of like a cross between both of these timelines, option 1 and 2. If we possibly met on Thursday, the 6th, and then
No,
let me please finish my sentence.
Thursday's the 5th. So
Okay, so Thursday, the 5th, if we did it just 1 week earlier, then we could give people we could either do it on the Saturday, the 14th, or we could do it on the 28th, but then give people more time. So, because I think that I just am concerned if we're asking people and there's a 1 week turnaround.
Here's
that's
the
a
only
really fast
challenge.
turnaround.
If we don't close, if we close on the 26th, for us to complete by the 5th is almost impossible.
Okay,
For all the materials we provide, all the things we put together. So it would be, and reference checking, that's like
yeah,
big
Yeah.
huge.
challenge. Right. So it would be pretty hard to do the 5th.
I wouldn't
for us.
want to cut that short.
Yeah.
What about well, I guess we're looking at maybe the 18th, 19th, 19th, 20th, or 23rd, 24th.
Want to vote and put out some dates and then we can all raise hands?
Well, 23rd, 24th, that's going to be the first week of school, right?
That's,
Oh,
So we're going to have drop off
Yeah.
and pickups.
okay. So what would the 18th and 19th look like, or
Or the 19th, 20th. Well, 20th is gonna be hard.
18th and 19th.
I have nothing on either of those 2 days. It's
good.
scary.
Well, I'd like
It
to
is
hear from our
scary when you do
working
that.
Yeah,
trustees.
that's,
19, 20 is great.
Okay.
Will people
I
come in on a
am
Sunday?
not
I
able
mean,
to do the
I would, but-
19th at all. I'm leading something for 3 hours.
I'm sorry, I just
I
didn't
am not
understand you.
able to do the 19th. I have a 3 hour work meeting that I'm
Ah.
leading.
So
On the 19th, right, Ashley?
You know what? No, I'm sorry. It's only a 1 hour meeting. I could move that.
okay,
19th and 20th
the
is.
The 19th and 20th, I think could work.
Okay.
Are you in town so
Yeah.
that you could?
I'll be in town, I'll be in town. Well, this is a wedding that, like a lot of people, got postponed.
Yeah.
So the 19th and 20th, and let's just keep the 19th and half day the 20th. We may not need the next day. Sometimes you just want to debrief and kind of sleep on things and bring the candidates back the next day. Other times we've just gone right through and it's worked out really well. We don't have to make that decision today as long as you block off the 19th and half of the 18th, 19th, half of the 20th.
Is there a benefit to doing weekday versus a weekend, like, or vice versa?
You know, so sometimes for the candidate, you know, they did just for their own personal situation, they don't have to miss a day. But it's important enough, and they'll know far enough in advance. We actually post it on our website, so people kind of work their schedules around that if they're applying.
Even though that's like the beginning of the school year.
That's what I was thinking.
For some people, they'll already be in school. I was with the district yesterday, starting on the 10th.
Yeah.
Yeah, we,
But I think
for the
anybody
August starts, we
applying
start
will
late.
make themselves
Available.
Yeah.
would it make, in line of being considerate, does it make sense then to have the 20th and 21st? So they have a weekend option and a Friday option rather than 2 work days, or does that not matter?
Or,
But
yeah.
you're not.
But I mean, we have other people on search, so I mean, we
Yeah,
could
it's
do the 21st and 22nd. I just wouldn't be here. And that's fine. We've got other people, other candidates, you know. So
I would prefer to
Leah
try to do
suggested
it when you are here.
The 19th and 20th, if you did the 19th, can you be here, Dennis?
19th and 20th would work fine. Did that work?
Or the
with you,
20th
Mark?
and 21st, if you, can you be here on the 20th, the day before the wedding? In all candor.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be pretty tough. So if you're okay that he's not here, I mean, I can be here, but Kent or Sandy. can.
What is the purpose of, like, what is your role on those days? Are you the interview?
So our role on that day, on both those days, is we facilitate the whole process. So if, assuming we're, for example, at the 20, if it's a weekday, we're going to be someplace else. So we meet the candidate, we get them set up. Usually
Okay.
Rosie would be with us. We make sure they have a place to wait. Then we facilitate, we're in with you, listening to the
Mhm.
interviews. Part of that is both to help you make sure you're doing all the things you're supposed to do according to HR rules. And second of all, we want to also be able to give candidates feedback about their interviews later.
Mhm.
Because only one person's going to get the job, but other people want to be superintendents. So we're really the facilitators. We're not directly.
Right.
We
So-
will have done, once you know all the candidates and who you're going to interview. If Dennis isn't here, and I might not be here able to be at 1, and Kent might, so we're working those out, but you've got enough people on the search.
So,
But really, the interviews is our job as the facilitator. So it's not as important necessarily to have, if Dennis could be here one of the days, having been through most of this probably, because he's been kind of the lead on this, it's probably better, but it's not required.
so
because
can we
we're
do
just-
2021?
We-
Because then that will allow our
He wouldn't be
working-
here. He might not
Our
be here the
working
20th.
trustees will,
Well,
it's a,
What is, just to play devil's advocate, is it terrible to, if you pushed it 1 week to the 27th and 28th, is that not giving us enough time then?
I can't be here the 28th,
Oh.
so,
Okay, good. That's it.
or the afternoon of the 27th. I
Okay.
didn't realize that weekend would be,
So what did the 19th and 20th look like to people?
that looks fine. Oh.
Yeah, I'm fine.
I'm fine with that.
I have a question because in the one time that I've done this, we did the interviews here. So is that,
But was it
So-
during?
yes?
I
mean,
wasn't involved. sorry.
Yes, we did them in the
I'm trying to remember
superintendent's,
how we did it, Karen, because
in the superintendent
we did
conference
it in the
room.
superintendent's office.
Good.
I don't know how they worked it out, but yeah, you're right, we did do it.
Because they can come in just like we sort of do and have the boardroom be their waiting area so they see no one. Go
I
through the
believe that
back
was the
in
case, yeah.
And go back out, so they don't ever
Right.
have to see anyone.
Right.
Yeah.
It's probably, I think that may have been how we did it at the
Yeah.
time, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so 19th and 20th.
19th and 20th.
19th, half of the 20th.
Yeah, and then we'll debrief on this. I think, Trustee Wygan's comment about the start of school, I want to process that a little bit because there could be some candidates, it's possible that that is right when school starts. And so it sounds like we're going to try to do the 19th and 20th. But if we come back later, if you still book the 21 and 22, and then let's just keep that flexible enough for us to have a little further conversation on it. I wouldn't want a candidate to say, I can't come because of the school, the start of school year. I hadn't really thought about that. But let us, are you okay?
Well,
Let's
could
just
we,
block that
could we do
timeframe.
that if there was one, perhaps it couldn't, and we felt strongly we wanted to interview them, just do that one on the 21st?
Or on a week, or on a day that isn't. I mean,
On
it
the
could- it
23rd.
may not be the 21st, maybe we could meet him on the 22nd, maybe she would be willing to come in on a
think-
Sunday
I
afternoon.
do it after hours.
What we
too.
do is when someone applies,
Yes,
that's
that's
one of the
true.
questions we can ask too, when someone applies, that look like a strong candidate, before we come to you on the 12th. We say, okay,
Can you be
this
there?
isn't gonna be possible. So let's just find out when we get our candidates. Most candidates probably gonna work out just fine. But if we have that flexibility on your part, then we can talk to the candidates and we'll say, let's pull the plug on the 19th and 20th and do the 21, 22.
And-
Becky says you can zoom in from the wedding.
And or can we do like an evening one of those? I mean, I think too, an evening could be helpful for people if they were working, if it was someone that was,
Yeah.
you know, within 3 hours,
Unless they're
Sometimes-
flying in
sometimes we
from
might be able to
somewhere.
move-
right? If they were close, that's what
Yeah,
I'm
and
saying,
some
if
of
it
them
was
can
within
move
3
till
hours.
later in the day if they can't
Yeah,
make the
so
morning.
when we
know.
get to that
So
point,
we'll
let's
work
just
it.
figure it out.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're flexible, so let's
I
go.
mean, it sounds like, you all are enormously flexible.
Yes,
We block that time off, it'll be good. We want to keep the integrity of the day. And generally, those become in consecutive order. You treat every candidate the same. There's a certain break that we take, and
Right.
then there's this final debrief where you really talk about things. So we want to make sure the process is solid, and it sounds like you've been way flexible in terms of your time, and so we'll make it work. Okay?
Yep.
Then we go.
The
Then
only
the-
days we haven't specifically confirmed yet, Dennis, are going to be the days we're going to do input sessions.
Yeah.
And I think you and I, I'll have to sit down with Kent
Yeah,
and figure
yeah,
that out.
yeah.
It looks to me right now like it's the week of June 21st.
Okay.
Because we have the Summer Institute the week
Yeah.
before.
Okay. The week of June 21st.
Hmm.
Thanks. Week of June 21. Does that look like? is
Wait,
that-
what?
I'm
I'm
sorry,
sorry, what
I
was that?
She was just, Peggy moved us back up into community input, stakeholder input. The week of June 21, and we'll identify days there with the staff. If there's better days than others that we would do it, we have several days during that week. We'll identify with Rosie, okay, here are the days and here are the blocks of time.
To start the input.
To do that. And you don't participate in that, that's generally, you're gonna have your input. And it's usually better for board members, really, just let community members do it. People tend to be a little freer, and so that isn't as important for you as it is for making sure the staff and this will work for scheduling purposes.
So to be clear, your recommendation is we not be on any of those Zooms?
We do
Right.
think that's better.
Okay.
Not to. it just, sometimes the dynamics change a little bit.
Absolutely.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's a
Oh,
good idea.
yes.
Okay. So then we're gonna move down, the validation visit, that's really done that day, that when you've offered, you've identified your final candidate, you've interviewed these candidates, then you've brought back a few candidates for a much more interactive conversation. It's really to sit down, let's talk about things, and then you walk away from that day having said to this individual, you're our final candidate. You're the person that we would like to move forward with pending contract negotiations and a site visit. And usually that's done by Zoom, where you have a chance to talk to maybe the Teachers Association or DLAC members or cabinet members in the other district, just to validate that with the final candidate. That's really determined that afternoon with everyone's calendar to say, okay, let's look at this as our date for the validation.
Would we assume that would be the next week?
Yeah, it'd be probably the week after, especially if you're interviewing like a Thursday, Friday.
Okay.
Sometime.
So we'll
following.
say like an August.
And some
Thursday
boards
and
are doing
Friday,
that
we might be able
via
to handle
Zoom.
that. Ladies with children.
Pardon?
It's
What was
okay.
that? What'd you say?
Well, that's our first week of school.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah.
but if we did it on Thursday or Friday, would that be okay for moms? That,
It would just be one person though. I mean, it's not going to be an all-day thing.
I mean,
well,
So will we do it maybe the morning of the 27th? Because Karen, I believe, our trustee, Yelsey said you needed to leave after.
Here's what the validation would be. So it's one, many districts are doing it via Zoom. And in some cases, they don't do them at all anymore. It just kind of, it'll be up to you. It's just knowing sometime that next week, whether it's all of you get on a Zoom with the people. If you do, it's a public meeting and anybody can listen in. So you may not want to do that. In some cases, a couple board members go to the district and meet with the various groups, whether it's a union representative, whatever it might be. And we give sample schedules of how it works. It typically takes a couple hours. It's not an all-day event. Sometimes the board members who go might want to go to lunch with the candidate they've selected just for a separate time, but you need some time. Right now, depending on where we are with whether we can go in person, I think that's going to determine some of it, but you have some flexibility,
where?
but typically it's
And
the
where?
next week.
Yeah.
So we will decide that
Yeah.
after the 19th, 20th. At that
Correct.
time, we'll
That's
decide when.
okay.
Yeah.
Correct.
And just, except for your perspective, it's usually 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's with 4 or 5 groups. You see some board members, cabinet members, teachers classified, and just to validate that. And it's a good way to do your due diligence. Everything that you heard it really shows up in other conversations. Zoom works well or in person, and that can be determined on the day of interview. All right. And then at this point in time, September 14th is the approval date. And I think Mr. Covert said that was acceptable. And the start dates to be determined once you find your candidate.
One of the things you might want to think about doing with Mr. Covert is to get him to draft. We need a copy of the current contract, so to send to us, which I know you can do.
We can get
but-
you that.
But I think also is it's helpful for the day of when we come through the interviews, the candidates you're going to interview will have given us what we call a parameters worksheet. What are the things they're hoping to have in a contract? A 3-year contract, this many work days, all the things, salary, those kinds of things. It's helpful if you have kind of a blank, fill in the blank, if you will, contract kind of ready to think about what you're willing to accept and put into that so we can know whether they're in the ballpark. Will help you by the end of the day, when you finally get down to that one candidate, to know the basic terms of the contract. We're not lawyers, we're not going to write the legal language, but we will have kind of, here's the basic salary, here's what they're expecting. All of that will have kind of agreed to, and you turn that over to him and he basically fills in the blanks, if you will.
So basically, we as a board would have a closed session for personnel, and we would sit down with Mr. Covert and write our blank contract for the new person.
Would that be at the end of the 20th, let's just say?
No, I think we would have.
That, no, we would do that sooner.
Yeah, a couple
Yeah.
ways boards have done this, and Spencer Cover's terrific at this too. Oftentimes, there's a small board subcommittee, a search subcommittee, we can work with that subcommittee in terms of contract and contract parameters and so forth, so that they can do that, and it's the appropriate way to do it. We would provide you with comparables, and we've done that in terms of what the salary range should be in a district similar to Newport-Mesa. And so we can give you some suggestions on that. And the candidates will have done that also. But we ask the candidates, as Peggy said, to list all that. At the end of the day, on that interview day, the candidate would have listed their desires. You would have already known sort of where you're at. And then that would go to Spencer Covert, and he would drop it into the contract. But having a subcommittee is helpful. We can begin to share with you. I already have that. We have that in terms of comparable salaries. And that subcommittee can sort of make those determinations or, set the stage for it.
But based on your experience, is there a lot of negotiation back and forth, or typically it's pretty seamless?
It goes pretty well. I think, particularly if we work with a subcommittee, we will chat with you about what we think the comparables are. There isn't a lot anymore in terms of contract issues. There used to be a lot of different components, and now it's primarily salary. And so I think it'll go well. And then the contract parameter sheet is so important because we don't want a superintendent wanting this job and his or her expectation is way out of line from
Right.
where you're at.
Mhm.
And so we work with the candidate
Right.
ahead of time and say, there's all sorts of negotiations, there's room here, but if you want this, we don't think this is.
Right,
that's
so you
realistic.
already have kind of an pre.
Right.
Okay, great. Thank
And
you.
there may be things that, and that's where Mr. Kroger comes in, is that there may have been some legal changes in terms of you want to make sure the current language is what it has to be by law.
Mhm.
And if there's something in the contract that you didn't like that, Ms. Sung had, then you could say, we don't want that included anymore. But pretty much, as Dennis said, it's all pretty much gone to salary now, because the other things like mileage allowances and phone
Right, that's
allowances
all
and all
out.
those things are just not needed, and they are better to put into salary.
Mhm.
So the board can think about if you want
We've
to do a
had work on
subcommittee or
that
work with the board
yes,
president, how you
Yep.
would like us to do that, or how you'd like to do that.
And once we have his contract, we can work with that too. Okay,
That sounds,
All right, then going back to the 7 is candidate recruitment. We'll be recruiting candidates from,
trust me, we already have.
it'll be broad. So that's what we do. And that will take place in the date that we've talked about. Peggy and we've chatted on the worksheet, contract parameters. Every candidate invited to the interview is required to do that. And that's where we bring people's expectations in line a little bit more if they're not so, because we will see that. But we talked about needing the current superintendent's contract. And then oftentimes what we would suggest is that the board president send that contract to the district's legal counsel and just say, is this still current? I think, is there anything here that just you need to change or need to be considered? I think you've done this a few times, but I don't know how dated the contract is, but it's always good for Spencer to take a look at it and say, yeah, this is a good template for us.
and we have done that as recently as last year.
Last
So
summer, yeah.
Then it sounds like that won't be covered. All right, then we're going to move on to 11 in just a few minutes, which is really the time where we get your input. But are there any more questions or things that we've left off or that you want a clarification on?
I just have a scheduling clarification. So it looks like a lot of June and July is kind of you guys doing the bulk of the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
And then we come in August.
That's right.
Just wanted to schedule.
No, that's right. That's
The only
exactly
thing,
right.
the only
go
thing
see
is
my
you'll be
son.
getting periodic updates from us,
Yeah.
but that's all email, so it's not that. But otherwise, no, you're free to travel.
And will we get you'll send us the applications. Will we
After it
get those
closes.
all together? Will we get them as they come in?
No, after it closes.
After they close? So-
Right.
And we'll get all of them. You'll have them grouped into chunks of the cream that's risen to the top, and then here's the skim milk, and here's
Yeah.
the watered down at the
Yeah.
bottom. Yeah, okay.
But you will review all of them and we'll talk about why some of them didn't rise to the top, because they may look really good on paper. But there may be reason why they're not there that we'll be able to talk about. Carol?
This is related to the interim superintendent. At what point did we do a handoff? Can you help us with that, what that looks like?
Say that again.
The interim superintendent, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
what does that look like?
Yeah, we have a closed session too, just to
We're going
talk
into closed.
about interim candidates. But the process will be, we're going to later be a closed session to talk about candidates that you may want to consider to invite for an interview. Then we help facilitate that interview process. Then once that candidate is selected, then you'll talk about the sort of the transition. It could be that the candidate would want to be here a few days for several weeks prior to, Russell leaving. And so those are things we'll talk through with the candidate and get a consensus on that. We have limitations, as we've told you, about 40 days that they can work. And so we're trying to make that work. And we think we can through that September, probably even early October timeframe before the person actually would come aboard. So we're trying to use the person's time well.
Yeah.
Trustee Crane, did that explain?
Yeah, because I didn't know the transitional period and how long, because I know we're limited as to how much we can
Yeah.
use this interim superintendent.
Yeah.
And so basically you're saying we have till about late October.
And we've talked about the idea that we might have one person do for a while and then they can't go further than somebody else.
Okay, so there's always
up.
that option, because I don't want us to rush into the superintendent hiring if we are worried about the interim superintendent limitations. So
Yeah.
it's good to know that we can hand off.
And the other option, the other thing will be, when can the new person start?
Right,
So, and we don't know that right now.
Right.
obviously,
Right,
but-
exactly.
But
Yeah.
we've talked about some backup plans about if we have, we have a couple people who are definitely interested and so, anyhow, we'll talk about that close.
okay,
In close
thank
session.
you.
And Trustee Crane, I had talked to Dennis earlier about the fact that Superintendent Lee Sung is leaving August 2nd. And that's when our leadership team is coming in to start the new year. And so I think we all feel there needs to be more overlap at the
Right.
beginning so that person can be here, even if it's a couple of days a week,
Uh-huh.
to work with him so that when the leadership team comes in, not that we want this interim to change anything.
Nope.
We just want them to maintain the status quo as we move forward
Okay,
into the
great.
plans for next
And-
year.
and we'll talk about that. We have a couple of really, really strong, outstanding individuals, experienced, superintendents, and it might even it'd be good for you to meet both of them. You may say, okay, well, this is the person, but it could be, and we just keep it open. This is more important to do right than to do fast,
Exactly.
right?
Mhm.
And so, let's just say this time frame is like, people say, I'd love to be in Newport, but I can't leave right now. Or we just feel like we need a little bit more time. And so I think you identify a couple interims. We know who our primary person is, and it could be that then this other person could help carry it beyond this point. Because this is too good a district to lose people for whatever reason. And so I think you're in a good shape if we just stay flexible enough to realize getting it done really the right way is the best way to approach that. So we'll talk about the interim piece in closed session when we look through candidates. And I think you'll find a few people there that just say, oh, either one of these two or both of these two individuals would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And, huh? Yeah. Take a little rest.
Yes.
Just 5 minutes?
5 minutes,
Okay.
good.
And then we'll get on to the input session. Good. At 11:15?
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, no, okay. This next, by the way, the survey, we're looking at June 4th through June 30th for the online survey to be live. And June 4th is tomorrow. If we can get that done, and then it'll close on June 30th. And we just talked to Ned Franco, and she wants to help in any way and make sure she's in a loop, and she'll be key and instrumental in this, along with Rosie and Becky.
Is there any way
And
you
she-
can, Oh, I'm sorry.
Annette already has developed a website for us. Hasn't gone live yet, but she's ready.
Cool.
Okay.
Is there any way we can prevent somebody from doing more than one survey?
No.
Okay,
No, we haven't found that to be a
problem.
actually, I think there is.
You can set it to
From-
only
I
be
think
done
we
once.
We may have a way that, from the IP address, that it only takes, but we haven't found it to be a huge issue.
Okay,
But,
If you notice something, let us know.
yeah. Oh,
Sorry.
Beck,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and for Trustee Barto, if you can also, these are the three questions, and anything that you want to share with us separately, send us a note on,
Okay.
that can work also. If
Right.
Trustee Barto has to leave.
And
So these are the questions, so when we meet with these groups, we ask these same questions, and so that all gets consolidated together. Well, it stays separately, but it all comes together in terms of.
And
the position
Trustee Barto,
description.
I don't know if our emails are just plynch@leadershipassociates.org or dsmith@leadershipassociates.org.
Thank you.
If you don't have it. So if you want to send it to us, that's fine.
All right,
Just put
wonderful.
it in.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is a time for the board to contribute, and we've done it different ways. You can just start at one end and go around, or you can popcorn it, however you like, but we take each question at one time. The desired qualities, the personal or professional qualities or experience and background that you think is important. And don't worry too much about the order of that, or if the personal, professional, just jump in there. We'll restructure it in our notes. So President Yelsey, what's the? you wanna-
Does anybody can start? If you, Trustee
want me to
Barto,
go?
would you like
Yes,
to make
okay.
comment?
Probably most important to me is it's really three things. Excellent communicator, innovative, and good at communicating.
Say it
and-
again. Excellent communicator.
Excellent communicator, innovative, and really good at communicating his vision to his staff and letting staff run with it. So he's not personally managing it, but he's developing his staff to go out and carry out that work.
Good.
So communicates the vision.
Mhm.
Other thoughts on personal, professional characteristics?
I think some things I've seen, I mean, I think a lot of superintendents are teachers. They're looking at students, they're looking at equity, they're looking at a lot of these things. I like it when I see a superintendent who is not afraid of trying things from outside of the realm of the California way of thinking about schools, or from the public school way of thinking about schools, bringing in ideas from industry, bringing in ideas from private schools, things that work differently. But I think the biggest thing to me is making sure he has that interest in, or he or she has an interest in kind of pushing the envelope for what we can do. And then second most important is that he or she is not doing it themselves. I feel like a lot of times we have really wonderful people who have a great idea and they want to do it all themselves. And we are, because of that, seeing kind of we need to build our leadership from kindergarten teachers who want to work at the district someday or whatever. We don't have that pipeline that's clearly available to staff. And I think that that's something that could be developed, especially by a leader who says, I have this vision, and empowers non-traditional groups maybe of staff to kind of carry that out, bring it to the forefront, and then implement it on a district-wide
I
scale.
want to build the capacity of others too.
Yes. Mhm.
So it has an interest in developing leadership within the district. Is that-
Mhm. Yeah. So those are, I mean, other than that, I'm sure other trustees will have wonderful things that I agree with.
And just before, because we know you're going to leave in a little bit, but just on this topic,
Mhm.
anything in terms of experience, superintendent, has been a classroom teacher, should have a doctorate, any thoughts there in terms of their professional experiences?
I do think that having been a principal of either a middle school or high school for a while, or both, ideally both, is very important. I think that being in tune if with an elementary level, early childhood kind of lens is very important, but I don't have any specific things that I'm looking for in terms of doctorates or, experiences. I really feel like a good candidate, I'm pretty open-minded to see more what they've done than what their specific educational or work history is. I'd really rather let their track record speak for them.
Good. Good. Well, thank you. And maybe that's a good one too, but having a track record of success demonstrated, it's a demonstration of the track record of success, positive academic gains. Okay, good. President Yelsey, however you want to proceed in terms of this topic.
And would anyone, those were some great qualities that I think all of us want. So if anybody wants to expand or add things that they would like, Trustee Crane?
Can you tell by?
You look like you were pulling for the mic.
Yeah, there's no question. I agree with Trustee Barto's feedback and input. I do think that it would be important to have a leader that is very perceptive and has acumen as to the culture of our district, our social and political culture. And I think it's going to need to be someone who can be not necessarily a chameleon, but someone who can work and understand the culture of our district, because we are very diverse socially, economically, and politically. And I think that's going to be huge going into the future.
Good. Yeah, so appreciation for the culture of Newport-Mesa.
Yeah, and someone who regards climate, morale of the community, and the staff as a leader, a captain of a ship, understanding that. And I also think relational strength with our community partners, with our elected officials, all that, just all of it.
Good. Yeah, kind of the interpersonal skills and ability to relate to people.
Yeah, because I do think that I definitely think that, the part about being a principal is very important than being a superintendent, because you really get to see that you as a principal, you're the leader of your ship on your site, and you're dealing with parents and students, teachers, classified staff, support. You understand M&O, facilities, all of that. So that's very important. And then we just add another layer of relational acumen.
Excellent. Excellent.
Trustee Anderson?
I actually had acumen, interpersonal
word?
acumen written down. And
Seriously?
so I was like, oh my gosh, all right, well, yeah, high levels of emotional intelligence. I think for me to, one of the things that's most important is that the person is a bridge builder, that they really value community interaction, community input, community voice. To me, that is one of my top things. And then I'm really interested in someone who has experience and true kind of measurable success in school turnaround and school transformation. We have some of the schools that are Title I schools that have been in need for over 20 years, and it's enough. We need these schools turned around. There's really no acceptable reason at this point why they have not. And then going off that as well, a high focus on an academic vision that is a high level of accountability to ensure our most vulnerable students are authentically cared for, and we embrace new data techniques. We really hone in, and we not just look at the data, we use it to create that transformation, and then also all the way to our highest accelerating students. I would really like to see a lot more for our students who, may graduate early or are really on a different track across our district, not in one or two zones, but in all of our zones.
We got that.
Thank you.
You feel good, Peggy? All right.
I'll go. I think everyone had, all these are great points and great qualities, and I have a lot of the same ones. One is the empowers employees, so not a micromanager, someone that has a vision and can show that down to people that are working underneath him and empowers them to do their job. I think that's what our staff below really appreciates. As well as, the qualities and characteristics, I think they have to be a strong leader, where there's going to be a lot of times where there might be an unpopular decision that has to be made, but it's the best for the district, it's the best for the students, and it has to be made. So someone that we've seen make difficult decisions in the face of adversity, I would say, and I think Carol said it as well, knowing the climate of the district. I think as we look in the future, there's going to be a lot of hot topics that are going to come into education that are politically motivated or whatever. And we need to find someone that knows how to sail those or go through those rapids. And then is also, I mean, I have a long list, but I'm trying to find the most important. I like the fact that he was a principal, but I also, particularly, and I think Trustee Anderson said it, excuse me, that we think about all of our students, from the top performers to the bottom performers, and try to figure out what do we do to innovate our education system to attract some of those top performers. They might not think the public school is for them, and try to reimagine, I guess, public school. We have an opportunity to do that. And I think a lot of our, some of the people in our district have left thinking that we are not focused on that. And we also have some issues with, we're going to have low enrollment issues, I believe, as well. So, I mean, I think some of the ideas that we're really focused on, I mean, public education has completely changed in the last 2.5 years, and we need someone that has that vision of where they think public education is going to go. But strong communication skills, I would have to say, is probably my number one. Strong communication, and a stand-up individual that does and says what's right. It's not afraid to have those difficult decisions with anyone, whether it be the board or whether it be the people that they work with.
Good.
I'm just gonna stop for a second. Have strong communication skills, but then the next part you talked about was really their ability to have the tough conversation.
Yeah.
I can go next. I think everything everyone has said is really wonderful and right on. The only things I'd have to add are just following up on Trustee Wygand's point about just they must be courageous. There are going to be ridiculously difficult decisions, and they're going to have to be able to stand and look everyone in the eye and make a very tough calls repeatedly. So that is one very big one. And around the culture, an institution that they will create an institutional culture that is of listening and not telling. Because I think there are really great communications outward, but getting the communication from eliciting the feedback from the parents, from DLAC, from whomever the stakeholders we're talking about, but that listening element in the culture and not just a telling, because you can be a great communicator. I'm going to tell you I did this, I'm going to tell you I did that, but I want them to know how to take in the information as well. And then just lastly would be a systemic thinker that looks at the entire system and realizes when you pull one lever here, sometimes it might have a negative consequence over here. And we have to really be aware of all the implications of decisions that are made in a systemic way, especially regarding the equity across our district. And I think as Trustee Anderson alluded to, we have schools where people are actively plotting their exit from this district beginning in 3rd grade because they don't want to go to a middle school. So we have real situations around the academic excellence across the district. In some places it's great, and in some places it's greatly missing. And I think someone needs to recognize that and want to use data to really move it forward and try to fix it.
And I'll go now. Thank you, ladies. You did all of mine. My little tweak a little bit was we have been very blessed by having regular and consistent communication from the superintendent to our board. And that is crucial. I've been here long enough to see where it's been really high and really low. And the more information we know, the better. So we've had regular updates, so it's regular communication. And we've had emergency updates with bringing the idea that parents may call us, and if we don't know anything, it looks better if we do. We don't go out and, we're not the public information officer, but we need to know. So when we talk about communication, it's consistent, regular communication with the board and then public and staff. And courageous conversations was my second item that was on my list, because I think that's very, very important. Everything else is just subtle tweaks of what everyone else has said, but you've all said it better than I did. President Yelsey, it's to you.
I agree. I think you all have done a great job of giving a pretty good recap of what we would like. Just a couple of things to pretty much reiterate, though. I think we need someone to look at the entire district from the various spectrums of our different communities, and we have to make sure we are doing whatever we can for those kids who need interventions, as well as those kids who need acceleration, while maintaining equity, but we need to provide at both ends to bring everybody up. We're not just trying to make all things just be the same for everyone. We need to offer options as we move along. And I also agree that they really need to know the culture of our community. And I know it's been said by several people, but because there are so many hot topics right now, just in general, and they need to understand where the people who are here, who are the taxpayers paying to send their kids to school, how they feel about issues. So I think it's important that they know that. And also be accessible. A lot of this is communication and accessibility, but to everybody, to be out there at the schools, to make sure that the principals and the leaders, they know they have an ear with the superintendent. I think it's important that this person be out there. But I think everybody did a great job of bringing in quality. We all want a person of integrity and that type of thing. And I think we understand all of that, but they have to be special to be here.
Is that covered for now? And we can come back to it if you think about something else. Those are great, and we'll give you a recap of that also. What about the strengths of the district? You know, it's important that, you know, someone who comes in understands what's special about Newport-Mesa. You come in, you build off of that, you affirm what's here. And also for us, it's like, you want to come to this is a special place. And so what are the strengths you think of Newport-Mesa School District?
Michelle, do you want to go first since you have to leave?
Sure. Well, I think our diversity is both a strength and a weakness. I think that's one of the primary reasons I chose to send my children to public schools, because I loved the diversity of the experience that they would have. And I think that we also have we do have a good elementary build. The way we're building our readers and our math skills are very robust overall. And I think that the pathways that we've made in ROP, for example, alternative pathways, are strengths that we really do have, as well as some of the high school academics. I think we brought in some, we'll see how it goes after the pandemic. We had some really wonderful academic programs before that have kind of suffered, but I think, we have great academics, we have involved parents, we've got diversity, we've got, great paths for college to career. So I think those are some of our strengths.
Good.
May I go second? We have a very highly qualified staff in all aspects, both certificated and classified. We have excellent facilities. We have strong fiscal responsibility. We have a AAA bond rating, so that's huge. We do have a pretty low class size. So in spite of those little tweaks of having a big class, we have low class size. We have generous benefits. And we have some wonderful participations, some wonderful collaborations with both cities and the political leaders of both cities. We have regular communication between the sanitation and the waters and the city and the fire department. So we do that well. We have excellent youth group partnerships. And we have excellent partnerships with the arts within the district, not just our district, but we have partnerships with Segerstrom and Orange County Music and Dance and Pacific Symphony. I mean, we take that seriously. And we have a strong partnership with our community support groups. That's
Community support groups, you say?
community support groups. I didn't know how to put them, and Trustee Anderson probably has this in a way better way, but the Project Hope Alliance and Hoag Hospital.
Community
and
partners.
Community partners. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Anybody else?
Sure. I think one of the things for me that is a great strength, being a Newport-Mesa graduate myself, I think that we have a lot of generational families that are that have been in our district, in our area for several decades and are sending their kids now. And I think we want to continue to capture and maintain those families. And I know a lot of them have a great desire to be involved and included and have a voice. And I love that. I think one of the key strengths that we have as well is being a large basic aid district. We do not have a lot of the concerns about not being able to pay staff for the next year, a lot of concerns that smaller or under-resourced districts have. And so I think there's great opportunity there, and I would like to see us continue to step into that. I think we have some excellent staff members who we saw this year, blood, sweat, and tears, are willing to do anything possible to care for our students. And I think the last thing that I'm really proud of, and I think is a great success, is the growing integration of a whole child education mindset.
Growing what?
The growing integration
Integration,
of
okay.
whole child, that, how someone's home experience, their social emotional health, their social determinants of health directly impacts their academic success.
Excellent. Excellent.
I mean, a lot of it has been said. Yeah, the whole child thing, I think is a big proponent that our district has put a lot of time and effort into. Making sure our mental health is of our students is really top priority, which has been great. The other thing our CTE courses, we're really proud of those. And then our increasing our dual immersion programs. Other things that I was going to say is just coming from another public school district in Orange County, the school spirit and the amount that community is involved in our school district as opposed to others is really impressive. And I think Trustee Anderson said it, where we've got multi-generational families that are, came to the school district, stayed, raising their kids here. And then I had one more, escaped me. Professionalism of our staff and teachers. I've been thoroughly impressed by the professionalism that people take this as a profession, not a job for a great summer, anything like that you hear in the media, but we really take it as they care for the students. And that is our biggest thing, is that we do everything for the students.
I can go next.
Yeah, Joan.
For me, I think everyone has said all of the positives, the strengths around our, fiscal solvency. I mean, we're financially sound. We have great teachers. We pay them well. We have great parents that want to be more engaged. Students are trying. Everyone is doing their best. So for me, it's just the remaining challenges is why do we still have school sites that fundamentally offer a different education than other school sites? Why does one site have all these electives and you can really get your, interest in education and learning sparked in one site, and then you can come to another site and, well, hope you like this one elective because that's what you get. So I think there's just needs to be, of all of our skills and all of our brain power, we need to hone in on these sites and elevate them up. And to President Jelsey's point, we don't want to bring anybody down. We don't want to come to the middle. We want to bring everybody up, and especially our gifted and talented youth. I feel like they don't get the attention that they may get in other districts, when, it's because they're just seen as, you're doing so great, you're doing fine, everything's fine. But in reality, they really could be pushed so much further. So I think not only bringing up where we have these inequities remaining and acknowledging that we have them. I think, we can point out to all the great things that are at certain sites, and they're excellent. And it doesn't diminish that to point out that we have sites that are truly suffering. And we have, we're not at a loss of funds as many, other districts are. We're basic aid. So we have the ability to hone in and focus our resources. And so I think overcoming those challenges in equity and then also pushing our highest achievers higher is another element that I would see as a challenge.
We'll shift those over to.
I did
to
already.
challenge. Yeah, that's good. So just a quick question, equity. Does it tend to be more at the high school where you see differences, or at the elementary schools, or is it across the board in terms of differences between schools relative to the opportunities that students have?
Yeah, I would say that in particular, the ones that I'm thinking of is a middle school opportunity. But I know that Trustee Anderson can probably speak to the elementary.
Across the
schools-
board.
The elementary schools in as well.
All right.
Just different sites offered a fundamentally different education, and you see it from the transfers. Who's transferring out to where? Where are they transferring to? That's where we want to be. And if that's where we want to be, then let's make everywhere like that so that we can stay in our home schools.
So
So-
are we still on strengths or?
I think we
Thank you.
just,
Because
thank you.
I kind of want to stay on.
Same.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was the same question.
Congruent to the question.
That's good.
Okay, well, having been a teacher in a district for a year, a parent of 3 graduates of Newport-Mesa, and married to a husband who basically went to Newport L, Ensign, and Newport Harbor, I can speak to basically the district itself as an entity. And we are very lucky to be part of this district for many reasons. And they were all mentioned, pride, stability, and, fiscal stability. We passed bond measures that weren't necessarily passing anywhere else, and our community came behind us. We have amazing community partners. We have foundations. Our district's been very innovative in mental health recently. Amazing quality of staff, teachers, parents who care about the kids. And most importantly, our treasures are our kids, and they do turn out well in the big picture. We do give them the skills that they need to come out as a whole child. And that's evidenced by our data, our matriculations, our graduation rates, et cetera. So, but you know what, most of all, you need to also look at the big picture. As a board, if you look at our votes and how we vote, are we a fractured vote? Are we a 4-5? Are we a 4-3 all the time? Or are we a 6-1 or 7-0? You look at how we work as a team. And if you're a superintendent looking at our board, how do we operate? Do we show caring? Or do we work as hard as our leadership? Do we do our homework? Do we respect each other? I think that's a huge strength to look at how we operate as an organization. And best of all, our willingness to improve, to recognize our challenges and move forward, because we are not perfect.
Good.
Other strengths you want to add at this point?
Pardon?
Any other strengths you want to add at this point?
I think it's all been, it's been said, but, we offer options for all kids. We're all really proud of the district, but I agree. We, because we're so proud and we want it to be better, that we're continuously looking for ways to improve it, but we do offer options for all students. If you want to graduate from here and go to the best colleges in the country, kids do that from here. If they want to go into a career, we have career technical that they can do. For kids who may not have graduated, we have a place for them to push them to graduate, to move on with their lives. So we do offer a lot. If kids want to play sports in college, we have great sports programs here that develop the kids to get there. Or if they want to go to in music and the arts, we have great programs for that. And I think those are all real positive things we have. But like I said, and Carol mentioned, we want to continuously improve on what we're doing and innovate. And now is the time to do that.
So how about challenges? I started to write a couple of them about some of the inequities, what's offered at different sites and that kind of thing, how to raise everybody up, how to make sure everybody's getting a chance to move on up. And so what other challenges do you see at this point?
Go for it.
I personally would like to see, because when I was a candidate, I met with a lot of different stakeholders in the district and in our cities. I would love to see an improvement in relations when it comes to bargaining units, elected officials, just maintain, understand that we are collaborators in a process and we need to cooperate and reach out. I think we need, in looking for a superintendent, we need someone who will meet with every single bargaining unit leadership and city leaders, and just start on a positive note and say, okay, how can we always improve our relations and in the name of our kids?
Good. Other challenges now, or even as you look to the future? I mean, I've heard declining enrollment too, and I mean, just anything at all. Some leaders are better at doing certain things and solving certain challenges. And so it's important to kind of tease out what you think are the really underlying issues here, or where you can improve as a district, or things that are troublesome a little bit to you.
And I can,
I think along with that, I think part of it, because we have a declining enrollment, some people are moving away, but we also have people moving out to private schools. And I think we want to make our schools so exceptional that our local community members want to send their kids to our schools. And I think that's
Yes.
important, even though we're not an ADA district and we don't get funds for every student here. We want to have our communities together
Yeah.
and have them attend our schools. So I think we've got to make our schools, all of our schools, attractive to those people so that they want to send their children.
Within their community.
I don't,
to
yeah,
our
and I don't think
community
we have a lack of a student issue. They're, like Karen said, they're going to private schools because they feel that the school in their area is not going to support them in what they need. On
Or
either
transfer
side,
to
right?
other
Either on
schools.
the west side
Right.
or
Yeah.
on our east side, in our West Bay communities or Newport communities, they just feel that their school is not there for them, particularly what happens in the year and a half, obviously. But how do we rebuild that trust?
Mhm.
I think that Trustee Crane brought up, we need somebody to mend relationships in all sorts of aspects, mend/bridge, because it's really difficult to say this because this year's, I don't think morale is good anywhere in any company for any reason because of the pandemic and what we went through. But in general, there's a perception that we don't have good morale. You hunker down in your own school site and they may be okay. And this school may be okay, but they're not good enough to say we have great morale in our district. So whether it's real or not, the perception is there. And we want the perception to be, oh my gosh, this is such a great place to work, because it is a great place to work. I have been a parent, sent all my kids, was a teacher in our district, was an administrator in our district, and I have seen all different aspects. And it's up to our leaders to, somebody will go, oh my gosh, this is terrible. I said, you're right, that is a problem, but isn't it wonderful to work here? You know, you can make the perception. So some magical person who can do that And another thing that we have that is a challenge, we bring it all over the place. This is a very diverse political, social, and economic district. That is a challenge. And I don't see that changing in the near future unless Costa Mesa gets so rich that we outsource everybody and nobody can afford to live here. So there's that. And a challenge for us is we have a very young school board. And I don't mean that in age, I mean that in experience. So in the past, we've had people that were on our school board. The youngest, the least experienced person was 7 or 8 years. And now the most experienced person is 16, then me, and then it's brand new people. And so that is a challenge. It's not a bad thing. It's just a challenge. So the superintendent has to do a lot of educating in addition to everything else. So things that are normal that I may be used to because I've worked here so long and President Jelsey is used to because she sat on the board aren't commonplace. It's like, oh, this is coming up. For example, graduation. We've got, what do we do for graduation? Oh yeah, that's right. You haven't done that before. So that's another interest. So other than that, everybody else, we've got, yeah. Those are our challenges in my little
I
corner.
think that's a strength. For me, I think we needed new voice and new vision. And so for me, I think it's a strength and I'm really excited about the opportunity that we have new board members. And I think another one of the strengths that we have, President Yelsey said, was one of the things that was our common denominator is I think that we are all extremely passionate about our community schools being the best for our neighborhoods. I think we all agree on that. And I love that about our board. We are in wide agreement that we're very focused on every neighborhood school in Newport-Mesa being the best that it can be, and that we maintain communities for our neighbors. I think one of the challenges that I continue to see with our district and our community at large is we struggle with racism and cultural integration. And it's often something that isn't discussed and isn't talked about. And I think we're getting better at it, but I think that continues to be a challenge. And I think part of that too goes into how some of our district is funded. We have some schools who have large foundations and the district has allowed that to happen. And so there have been a lot of, for me, it's a challenge for things that I believe that the district should be funding across the board. I don't know that we need so many foundations, or if we do, they should be available to, they should be at all schools. It creates a very two-tiered system. I think for me, I would love to see more focus and improvement on early education, early literacy, early math skills. So we're really targeting academics at the root and at the core. And I think we will, there are a plethora of studies that, show we'll have less to address when children get to secondary if we really focus on that. So something, we've talked about innovation a lot, and I think, there's dual language preschools, there's dual language early childhood. I think we challenge to reclassify our students and have them transition despite the fact that several parents at home may be speaking English as well as Spanish. So when they get to middle school, they're not taking electives. They're still in ELD through middle school and high school, and that's a big problem. And I think Trustee Wigand and also President Yelsey said rebuilding, I agree, as rebuilding community trust. And one thing for me is I would love to have a superintendent build an emotionally healthy district organization. I think there's a lot of people feeling that they can't speak up or they need to be silent, or I really feel that an emotionally healthy district organization is a challenge that we face, and I would like to see that transformed. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I add one more? In terms of challenges, something Trustee Anderson said just reminded me, challenge around support services after school. So mentoring, tutoring, strengthening our partnerships, whatever they may be, so that after school hours really gets some more academic support, because we have partnerships with like the city of Costa Mesa for Rocks. Rocks is just physical activity, hanging out, which is wonderful. But academic components in many of our schools, I think in the after school program is not a part of it necessarily. So making sure that things address that, just having the kids, if we have them there at the site till 6, make sure that there's some learning that's happening after school hours. So whatever partnerships those need to be is something that stands out. And another item that Trustee Anderson made me think of was the idea when she mentioned the foundations, right? So some people with the gut reaction might be, oh my God, you're coming for my foundation, right? I mean, that to me, so this new superintendent really needs to have that lens of like, this is not a zero-sum game. You can keep your money, you keep your foundation, but let's acknowledge that we have nothing comparable on the west side of Costa Mesa. We will never have that influx of money that other sites with these foundations have. So what can we do as a district? Even if we can't financially do it, it's like, do we, PR wise support or work with a nonprofit that wants to create a foundation? What is it that we can do to focus and try to acknowledge A, that there's a gap, B, we're not coming for your money, but there's no money here. So, so what can we do? And I think that kind of visionary thinking and innovation is going to be important so that that person's gut reaction isn't just zero sum, oh my God, you're coming for my money, be quiet. Because I feel like that has been a trend that I've heard out in the community, where we look at, the Estancia zone, the West Side elementary schools, we don't have access to that money and we never will. No matter how great those parents get at fundraising, it's a different game. They will not be able to raise that. So where will that money come from? What kind of community partnerships can we have that really draws some funds over to the West Side?
I do want to add one more thing as far as a challenge for the districts. I think we need to look at our human relations task force and try to elevate it.
It's a human relations task force you have in place right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe a reimagining of that or
Ooh, I
rethinking
like
of it.
that.
Yeah,
we-
good. If you've kind of felt like you've been able to contribute in terms of all the qualities and characteristics and also the strengths and challenges, this is great. And we'll work on this and kind of give you some feedback at a later date regarding what we have here. And this is the exact conversation that will take place in those groups. So you can tell it becomes pretty interactive and it's even more informal when you're not at a board meeting, just having the conversation. So I think your parents, your teachers, everyone will appreciate that opportunity. So having said that, I think that we've completed everything in the open session. There's lots that we have to get back to you to firm up on the survey, on the timeline, but we've done that, and Rosie and Becky have been in communication this whole time, so I think we're gonna have a pretty good turnaround. We did want to go into closed session now to talk just about a few personnel matters that are legitimate and appropriate under the Brown Act. So having said that, I'll just turn it over to you, President Jelsey.
Okay, thank you. And I don't, we have a room here for action, but I don't think we need action. I think we all pretty much know and agree with the plan that they presented to move forward with this. So we'll now move into closed session. The item is 8A, public employment appointment superintendent pursuant to Government Code Section 54957. We will not be returning to the public webinar. Thank you very much.